recording started. Hey, welcome back. Day 2. You clearly did not have enough of day 1. So I want to go around very quickly. Thanks for coming back. I want to go around very quickly. One thing that resonated with you from yesterday. Lexi, you're first.
I gotta find my unmute button. Hold on, that's too hard.
Yeah, I want you to actually, and I should have mentioned, I want you to actually do this without looking at your notes. So top of mind, what resonated from yesterday?
I think the figure 8, you know, with the experience and then going to like the purchase and the buy section and how that process kind of all intertwines.
So the experience journey kind of idea?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's go to Ryan next.
I would say I can't name them. I'm sorry, but I do have them in my notes. The 7 differentiators of innovators.
Right, the real differentiators from kind of the leaders
Foresight,
that kind of
courage, and I can't do them all in order, but foresight and courage and those. I do have them written. I do have them written down.
Beautiful. The good news is there's so there's some good nuggets there that'll be really useful. And again, I'll post the PDF of those in that forum, and I'm going to ask you to kind of think about those as you think about your projects later today. Let's go to Stephen next.
Yeah, the mindset between scarcity and abundance. You know, are you enhancing the value or diminishing? I think it's big to think about at all times.
It's huge, right? It sets the tone. It sets, you know, of how you approach decision making, problem solving, talent. Is it a, oh my God, if this doesn't happen, we're gonna go out of business kind of scarcity mindset? Or I know our value, I know what we're doing, how we're doing it, we're the right team, right place for the right kind of people to come. So it literally has a massive ripple effect. Nicely done. Let's go to Chris.
You know, the 10 traits of innovative leaders, specifically speed, that resonated pretty well. Speed of decisions. Yeah.
Again, throw enough time, effort, money at anything, you'll eventually get there. You'll make the decision by the time you're 90. The challenge is, can we make that decision a little bit sooner? And I got to tell you, there's actually a legitimate risk of inaction, right? So you waiting on something is a missed opportunity, right? Make the best decision you can with the information you have. Let's move, right?
Yep.
So beautiful. Let's go to Tatiana next. One thing that resonated from yesterday.
I think I like the triangle and the validate, verify, and void information in person. So like always going to that one person that you can validate the information.
Yeah.
I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, so that's it's called triangulation. It's actually in the relationship economics book, and you'll read, there's pages of it in there. So good, Tatiana. That has saved me weeks, if not months, of digging for gold, and going 50 feet below the surface over here, where it's actually 5 feet below the surface over here. And we all make assumptions. We all kind of take direction on those assumptions without, wait, is that really the right person? Is that really the right priority? Am I focused on the right thing? So getting in that triangulation habit goes a long way. Garrett.
Yeah, when we were talking about iteration versus innovation, we had our breakouts talking about how we see things, what we do differently or new. And then we talked about hybrid preferences. That just stuck with me.
Yeah, we everybody talks about innovation and disruption because it's sexy. It's cool. Who doesn't want to talk about that? By the way, newsflash, the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about is the minute you say innovation, you know what the rest of the workforce thinks? Oh my God, more work for me. Dude, I already got a lot going on. You want me to do what now? Right? So iteration is doing the same thing better. If you build a culture that iterates, right, constantly is looking for how do we improve, how do we do the same things better, you'll stumble into opportunities to do new things. And that's where real innovation is. The other challenge I see is, regrettably, everybody's pet project suddenly is an innovation project. That's innovation theater. That's putting lipstick on a pig. That's not what real innovation is about. What are we doing new? What are we doing interesting, new, different, that ideally eliminate some of those previous frictions or steps or bureaucracies or whatever the case may be, right? Let's go to Elliot.
The acronym WAIT, we are in trouble.
Right. That should be tattooed on the inside of the eyelids of some of the people you and I know. Because why? They always are waiting. Well, what are you waiting for? Don't wait. Let's go. Right. By the way, great thing to teach your subordinates. Right. I tell you wouldn't believe how many people I'm coaching to get out of the babysitting business. You're not in the babysitting business. Hire adults, treat them like adults, expect adulting. Adulting is real. Expect adulting behaviors from them, right? So you don't have to be in the babysitting business, right? So, yeah, absolutely. Wait, we are in trouble if we're waiting on something. Here's another one for you. You may want to write this down. Here's another one for you. Boogie, be outstanding or get involved elsewhere. Be outstanding or get involved elsewhere. How many people do we know that should really boogie? Because I'm trying to tell you, in the post-pandemic world, average, okay, good enough, those are going to be the enemy. And increasingly, people are going to expect for you not to just meet my expectations, but exceed them. And you cannot exceed expectations with mediocre. I'm coaching an executive right now. He's got good people, but they're in the wrong jobs. And there's zero pride. You know why? They let all kinds of stuff fall through the cracks. There is zero pride in what they do and how they do it. So here's a tip one of my mentors gave me. In your respective teams, look for who people are cheering for and who people are not cheering for. Why is that? Might be a really good observation. Who are people cheering for? Who are people not cheering for? And believe it or not, that's not a popularity contest. It's who is a collaborator, who is a supporter, who is a bolsterer of everybody's success versus who's jockeying and who's brown nosing. And Lexi, have you seen what a good job I'm doing? Garrett, I'm doing a fabulous job. Stephen, I'm not sure you appreciate what an amazing job I'm doing. Versus who just gets their stuff done, right? Nick, give me a big highlight from yesterday for you.
Elliot took mine with "we are in trouble," but I enjoyed the conversation around foresight. You know, I identified that as an area of improvement for myself. So seeing that collectively, I think we highlighted that as an area of improvement. And
I love Chris's comment on that. It depends on your role, right? I'm an operator. I'm heads down. I'm focused on execution right now. That's great. You just can't afford to make sure your head, don't make sure your head's not buried in sand, right?
Yep.
That you don't see what's happening around you, right? All right, David, bring us home. Big observation from yesterday. What resonated with you?
Once I get off mute.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say the triangulation that Tatiana said, because that I thought that was really astute.
Yes.
But short of that, I really liked the when you're 60% ready, move. When you're 80% ready, move.
Right? You just wait. How many people have we met that are, again, if you're launching a rocket, or you heard my analogy, if you're launching a rocket or you're cutting into my chest, please make sure it's perfect. Short of that, let's go. Right? We'll figure it out. That it goes back to that speed. It goes back to, right? Let's move. The market is just going to be way too dynamic for you to sit and wait on something, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I heard a CFO describe this. I love this analogy. Lexi's gonna, it's gonna resonate with all of you, but you're gonna love this. There are headaches, there are heartburns, and there's aneurysms, right? Headaches, I can take an Advil for. Heartburn, same thing. Aneurysm is pretty difficult to overcome. So missteps, right? And we don't make mistakes. We create learning moments. We don't make mistakes. We create learning moments. You just want to minimize the impact of that learning moment. And that's going to come from continued coaching, mentoring, thinking of your own approach to decision making and opportunities to look at that scenario differently, but also coaching and mentoring your teams. By the way, write this down for me. Write this down for me. The fundamental role of the corner office job. You ready? Here comes mind blowing. The fundamental role of any and every corner office job. You ready? Number one, brand. Brand. That is your product. That is your service. That is how you show up in the market. That is all about the Meritage brand. Number two, culture. Culture. Because that culture brings that brand to life. That culture makes that brand not just a brand promise, but now brand equity. The bridge between a brand promise and brand equity is consistency in how you show up. Let me say it again. The bridge between a brand promise and brand equity that's been delivered is the consistency in how you show up. So how are you showing up? Because the session is about agility and innovation. That starts with you. Do you demonstrate that agility? Do you demonstrate innovative thinking? Or is just, are you checking something off? Right? Carissa, glad you're here. We're talking about one takeaway from yesterday. What resonated with you?
Hey there. I didn't know you were going to actually call on me.
Listen, you and Regina are not flowers on the wall. You're active participants. Yes, ma'am. We can't see you. I see that good-looking Meritage background. You got to move like back into the scene again.
Yeah, because my camera is clicked on and it's still not working. I'll probably have to zoom out and zoom back in.
All right.
And, I wasn't prepared because somebody already took my favorite one, which is WAIT.
There you go.
You know, I love the WAIT acronym. That one definitely resonated with me from yesterday. You know, I find myself doing that sometimes. So that's why, you know, it was one of the key takeaways. I was like, yeah, sometimes I want to have everything in order before I pull the trigger. And, you know, my husband like laughs, I even shop like that. I'm like, I'm not buying this unless I know what it's going to go with.
Understood. Understood.
So anyway, if I don't see like the full picture, then, you know, it can certainly be a holdback for me at times. So I would definitely say that was one that resonated with me.
Yeah. And again, it's going to come with practice, right? All right, Regina, one thing that resonated with you from yesterday.
So in an effort not to repeat what's been shared, I'm going to go with storytelling and the types of stories.
Yes.
And in particular, I know we're going to jump into the hero's journey here in a moment, but
Yes.
I think that's just such a key component in being an effective communicator, is being an effective storyteller and knowing when to use which story at the right moment.
Yeah. So I'm working this week with another leadership team that literally has nothing to do with your space. They're in internet security technology. You want to know the two biggest challenges we're working through? Decision-making and difficult conversations, both of which fundamentally are stories. And they're part of the communication. And when it works, it's magical. When it doesn't, right, causes all kinds of problems, right? Look how lovely that outfit Carissa's sporting. Wow, that's very cool. All right, glad we got the camera working. Okay, so thank you for coming back. All right, so you can still see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so agenda today, as we talked about, we're going to do the presentations of the innovation homework. I want to know how that went. We're gonna spend a lot of time around this idea of an exceptional customer and employee experience. I want you to really understand why they matter. I want to talk about journey mapping. That's another really critical role. We're going to do a couple more exercises. We're going to talk a lot about visual storytelling and why that matters. Then we're going to talk about this idea of return on experience and enterprise agility. And then Carissa and Regina are going to talk to us about their project scopes for helping you prep leading up to July. So any questions, comments, insults before we start? All good? Everybody's good? All right. So let's start. The goal is to go through this hero's journey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I said it, a lot of great folks came into the forum and they updated their profile. Look at Steven Romano's good looking picture. And Lexi is there and Tatiana, look at this, very nice. So if I go over to members on the left-hand side, you can see, right? Everybody's got headshots. Ryan Hamilton put Gilbert, Arizona in. Garrett's here. Regina, that's the nicest picture of you've ever seen. Nick is still little, not non-committal. But Elliot, look how sharp Elliot looks. There's Chris Edwards, Carissa. And Elliot, interestingly enough, has two profiles. Not one, two profiles. He's here twice. Elliot's here twice. Even Javier is here. We got to just get him his updated profile. But thank you for doing that. And the activity feed, if you remember, activity feed, this is where you uploaded, you added your material. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to go with the first team. Chris, Tatiana, Garrett, if you could kindly share, one of you, share your screen, bring up what you posted, and walk us through it, that would be great. For everybody else, while they're doing that, I'm indifferent who shares, but one of you, Chris, Tatiana, and Garrett, one of you, if you could share your screen. While they're doing that for the rest of us, let me just give everybody a, yeah, go back up. Yeah, if you go to the top of the activity feed, keep going. There you go. Okay, for the rest of us, here's the goal. It just downloaded. There you go. You can open that. Your goal is initially, the group is going to I have a timer going on. You're going to have 5 minutes to present. An ideal if all three of you are involved in this presentation. The rest of us are going to sit and listen to the story. I want you to do two things for me. I want you to capture what went really well. What in their presentation, what resonated with you. I got it. Here's the part that I believe went well. We're also going to give them one or two areas to improve their story. So this is constructive feed forward. Feedback is rear view mirror. Feed forward is looking through the windshield. So the constructive feed forward is in that part of the story you may want to consider, you may want to think about, right? So positive, constructive, moving it forward, feed forward. So capture what went really well. We're going to capture areas for improvement. That's the goal of everybody else that's not presenting. You have any questions before we start? And we'll do this for all three teams. Any questions before we start? All right. Team one, the floor is yours. This is the interactive part of today where you jump in with your.
Yeah, Toddy, I think you're on mute.
So, okay, yeah. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
Yep.
All right. So, okay, let me start over.
We can't see the presentation.
So our journey, you guys jump in, okay, if you need to help me. But our journey starts with our hero. His name is Andrew. He went by Drew. He was an intern.
Tatiana, I apologize for interrupting. Should we be looking at something? Because we still just see your community.
You're not seeing my screen?
We're not seeing it. Is there a PowerPoint or something you're showing?
Yeah. Oh, I guess
it's on your other. It's on your alternate screen, Tatiana. We're seeing your browser.
My notes.
No, we're seeing the Nour forum.
Yeah. All right, guys. Sorry. I guess I mastered Teams in the last year, but I haven't mastered Zoom. So 1 second.
We'll figure it out. This is a judgment-free zone.
Good. I'm glad. Let me know if this is,
We see your mouse in a black screen, but there's nothing there.
oh God, okay, let's see this one more time. PowerPoint,
All good.
share.
All good.
Do you
There it
see-
is.
you guys see it now?
Yes, there it is.
There we go.
Can you guys still see it?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, let's try this again. So as I was saying, the hero, his name is Drew. He's an intern in one of our divisions in Orlando. He was going to the University of Florida, so UF, a Gator fan, and he's majoring in real estate with a minor in construction. And so that's the details about our hero. So the whole outcome that they're seeking is to, see if they want to build a career in this industry. We talked about it yesterday, and then we want to make it clear that the outcome is this the industry for him? Does he have an affinity with the industry? It's not necessarily getting a job after the internship is over, but is this something that he feels like he will belong? And why us? Why do they choose us? Primarily, we, interns choose us based on a good reputation and culture, our brand recognition. I think you just mentioned that, the job of the corner office is to build that brand and the consistency. So that was part of why Drew chose to be joining Meritage over other builders that may have attended the career fair. How will you really innovate? So, for us, it's, the intern curriculum, and there's, a whole program of cross-training and exposure throughout the internship period, including a capstone project. So even though he would intern in one department, he would be exposed to all these different departments that will, allow him to get that exposure. The joint accountability comes in with the capstone project that I just mentioned and sponsors. So, throughout the 12-week program, Drew would have the opportunity to spend time with heads of functions or to work side by side, because this capstone project would not only be focused on his sales internship, but it's focused throughout every department, and the sponsors would show commitment to, to be part of it. And the capstone project is something that Drew would have to work on throughout the internship, and he would have, a beginning, a middle, and an end. So the real agility and innovation success with us is we figured it would be the successful execution of this project, presenting it to department heads and showing if this is something that, as a business, can we act upon? So it wouldn't be something that we would made up, or, we discussed that sometimes interns could be just sweeping houses or filing. This would be a real project with something that, we could take after the presentation. So the failure without us is that, at the end of the program, he says, what, I've been studying, I'm a junior in college, and I've been studying real estate and construction for the last 3.5 years, but I definitely don't feel like home building is for me, or Meritage is not for me, and he chooses another career path. But, the goal is for us to all be aligned and get the hero's transformation, which would be the final output and for him to find out that Meritage is the right place for Drew to start his career, and then he would get a job. Does my team have anything else to add?
No, you got it. You covered it.
Good job, Tatiana. Can't hear you, David.
Is that it?
Yes.
Great. So round of applause. Round of applause for the team. Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. So let's go around quickly. Positive, what went well? What did you like? What resonated with you? And then one or two, if you have areas for improvement, feed forward. Ryan, you're up.
I thought it was simple. I mean that in a good way. Like I was able to follow exactly what was going on, who he was, and what the process was. It wasn't overly complicated or overly burdened. You didn't give me enough time to develop criticism. I don't really have one. I don't.
Okay. We'll think about it. We'll come back to you. Lexi,
No.
what went well? Areas for improvement.
I think they did a really good job, like explaining, who Drew was and relating it to Meritage and how we actually develop our interns. So it kind of followed the process pretty well for what we're used to seeing, right? Things to consider, I would just say more of a story, and then potentially kind of dig in on that innovate and really give some more detailed examples on how that process could go.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Positive and area for improvement.
Yeah, it's for me selfishly, we're getting our first intern, so it was great to be able to hear that journey of Drew. Definitely, it's really hard as we've got the opportunity to help somebody, so it's great to hear that how Tatiana was able to get them there and choose a career path on that. With me, it's just our storytelling is something that's hard to do, and especially when we're kind of following a path. But yeah, if we're trying to tell a story with, just get through that. So that's all I got.
Okay. Thank you for that. Elliot, positive and area for improvement.
Oh, I don't know that I have a lot that's different than what's already been said. I like the joint accountability and capstone. While that makes complete sense, it's not something that I had considered otherwise. And I don't have any areas for improvement again that haven't already kind of been.
All right, thank you, Nick.
I apologize. My boss came in, so I honestly didn't hear the presentation. So
no problem. Let's go to David.
I apologize, Mike. No, I can't pull that. No, I thought I like the how will you really innovate with the curriculum and cross training because the outcome is to build a career in the industry. And so, you're not by cross training, you're not just focusing on sales. I mean, this intern, this very green person may, see another part of the business that they may like and gravitate toward. The opportunity to maybe think about a little bit more is maybe elaborate on what the capstone project may be.
Nicely done. Tatiana, are you open to some coaching? Would you like some input?
100%.
Okay. So overall, went really well, as I like the end-to-end, that kind of career journey. I appreciated, you gave the character texture. I appreciated the texture of Drew. That was great. Opportunities for improvement. I really wanted all three of you to present parts of this. And again, tag teaming with, having Chris and Garrett present parts of it would have been nice. Independent of this presentation, I can't emphasize 2 points for everybody. And I've spoken with everybody one-on-one. Several of you use a lot of fillers. In particular. So, your brain is working faster than your mouth, and you have a need for that filler. I coach a lot of leaders, and that's one of the things I want for you is to be more aware of it, to eliminate it independent of this from your presentation. Because as candidly as I can say it, every time you say the perception is that your IQ goes down. And I know you're more intelligent. I know you're more articulate than that. It's just that it's a style. You may not even be aware of it, but work on, and all you have to do is just pause, collect your thoughts, articulate the next point, pause, articulate the next one. Ums and ahs and so's and all those are fillers that are not necessary. Number one. Number two, we're 14 months into this pandemic. I'm guilty as this as well. but there's this idea of a digital etiquette and digital comfort. So, and again, this is just outside of this that I think will be useful to you. Number one, invest in a decent camera so it's at eye level. You want your camera to be at eye level. So we're not looking down, we're not looking up your nostrils, we're not looking at a weird angle. 2, lighting. Decent camera, lighting, comfort with the technology. All of that is going to really help you and your digital presence. Even when we get back to increasingly in-person visits, digital is not going to go away. So the sooner you can embrace, this is just like the first time you learn how to use PowerPoint or Excel or anything else, these digital tools are not going to go away. Logitech has a $130 camera that's 4K. That just looks great. It sits right on top of your monitor. It's at eye level. Anything you can do to elevate that, how you show up digitally, will go a long way in how you present, how you show up, how you engage others. So just food for thought. Fillers, pause, right? So you don't have a need for the fillers. And anytime you can upgrade your digital presence, that'd be really helpful. Questions,
Thank you.
comments? You're welcome. Questions, comments from anybody? All right. Nice job, team 1. Tatiana, if you could kindly stop sharing your screen. We're going to go to team 2. Lexi, Ryan, and Elliot.
All right, let me attempt here.
Perfect.
So we didn't follow the map, but you can see the steps in words. So Elliot, I'm gonna let you kick it off.
Thanks, Lexi. Our hero is Cheryl Martin. She's 57 years old, spent 10 plus years as a paralegal before deciding to pivot into a new career. She spent just over a year at KB Home as an escrow coordinator and liked the work, but not the culture, and has recently joined the Meritage team in Tampa to continue working as an escrow coordinator. She puts a little bowl with chocolates on the corner of her desk so passerbys will take one and start a conversation. She got a picture of her pet cat, Snuggles, in a frame in her cubicle. She enjoys cooking shows, frequently falling asleep at night to chop, telling her friends that she rarely makes it past the appetizer round. She's dabbled in yoga and would love to travel to India someday, but subconsciously knows it will never happen. And she's a coffee drinker. Here's her picture. What outcome they seek. Cheryl wants to work in a fun, positive environment and have work friends. She's ready to work hard and is adept at figuring things out on her own. However, she's worked in environments where she didn't know what was going on and she didn't feel appreciated and found it very unfulfilling. She considers herself loyal and wants her company to be loyal to her. She's interested to know the benefits package, and you can count on her to have lots of questions about it. Ryan?
So why us? Similar to the prior group, Cheryl has heard good things about Meritage. Cheryl has heard good things about Meritage's culture and their marketplace brand. We also are her guide because we're the employer and have the opportunity to give her the tools that she needs and to guide her through this process so that she can hopefully achieve the required outcome. How we will innovate with Cheryl. Part of the rub that we find in our company is that there's a standardized onboarding that takes place, and it's mostly comprised of conflict of interest, legal type of stuff, and mostly workplace behavior, sexual harassment type training. And oftentimes in many divisions, it ends there. And we hand the employee a stack of work to do and say, good luck doing your work, and they're on the island. So the difference we want to make and the thing we want to do differently is to broaden that onboarding process so that it can set reasonable expectations so that Cheryl knows what's expected of her and that Cheryl has the resources in order to do what she needs to do and do her job effectively. And some of those things are listed here. The first bullet point is day one activities that is similar to what we already do now, but are still important. The second one is review job responsibilities with the manager and have planned check-in points about what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. The third is a review of core values and how those synergize with her job function specifically and what she is supposed to do. We think the most important is resources for learning her specific job, where she can have The first one says training manual. We know that a 3-ring binder is probably not innovation, but we think that some sort of digital or technical or advanced version of a training manual that tells her exactly what she's supposed to do and how she's supposed to do it would be very helpful. We'd also like to incorporate video modules and other higher tech ways to, on her own time and in her own way, on the device of her choosing and the place of her choosing, where she is able to do the things that she learn her job in the way she wants to. Also touch points. There are people across the company that do her same job. Sometimes we don't do a terrific job at introducing her to those people and knowing her, teaching her that support is there. Also a mentor program that would serve the same purpose, where she has people she can go to ask questions, and where she doesn't feel so much like she's on an island and she's trying to perform a new job. And as we all know, new jobs are difficult.
So joint accountability, what is their call to action, meaning ours and Cheryl's? As part of the onboarding process, Cheryl understands that there is performance feedback. She does have scheduled events and also understands that there are resources that she can utilize to better understand her job. Cheryl was given the proper tools and the resources to be successful. Now it's up to her to perform her job and make it what she wants to make it. Number 6 is real agility, innovation and success with us. If it's a good cultural fit, then Cheryl's going to fit. She's going to perform her job well, given that the tools and the resources are there. Failure without us. We don't believe this is going to happen, but after 6 months, Cheryl has had a hard time figuring out her job. She's got an upcoming performance review and she's super nervous about it. Making mistakes, and she's a little bit insecure about where she sits today. She gets bored. Sometimes she feels guilty about it. Other times she blames her coworkers for not giving her enough job, kind of work or things to do. One day a recruiter calls Cheryl, and despite being loyal and wanting to succeed, she breaks down, takes the call, and ends up returning to KB.
Is that it?
That's it.
Nicely done. Round of applause. Round of applause for team 2. Nice job. Nice job. All right. Let's go with Steven. What went well? Area for improvement.
Man, what a story. What a story. Kept me on my heels the whole time. So yeah, really good job there. As far as source improvement, guys, this was spot on. I really do appreciate you guys putting this together. It was good.
All right. Let's go to Chris next.
Yeah, great story. Love the picture. Kind of brought the story to life. Gives the hero depth. That was a great touch. I had to search for your presentation was great. So lots of great detail. But the one opportunity that I stumble on a lot is some of the steps had a lot of detail. Almost felt like you're reading to the audience versus telling the story. You're reading the story. But overall great. So awesome.
Garrett.
Yeah, I agree. I think the storytelling was really good right from the get-go, and it kind of continued through the whole from start to finish. As far as improvement, the only little tidbit I can say is having gone through Daniel Coyle and it's fresh in my mind, talking about innovation success with us, cultural fit versus cultural contribution. Applied.
Nice. Nick.
Yeah, I thought good visual storytelling, the way it got kicked off. You felt like you knew who Cheryl was, just the way that you guys introduced her, the candy. I thought it was good overall, the whole thing. I don't really have any critiques.
All right. David.
I mean, echo everybody else about the storytelling. One of the things I really appreciated was the really small details. I think those make a story. I mean, when you talk about the cat snuggles, how she likes chopped. She's got the thing of candy or chocolates. I mean, some of the best books that I've read or some of the best stories that I've read, the authors really belabor those details, and you really start to identify with the character. And so you did a really good job of that. Opportunity for improvement. I mean, I can see your emails in the bottom corner. You need to email Jeff Schneider back.
Right. Yeah, you may want to turn off your notifications and we in mixed company. All right, Tatiana.
Now, very impressive. I mean, I guess I missed the point and I was like thinking through the journey and not thinking about it in a storytelling the way you guys did. So you guys did an excellent job building the character. And I think, just listening to feedback that Nour has been giving us, that vagueness is our enemy. So you did a really great job there and walking us through the path. I think the biggest thing for me was similar to what Garrett was talking about, because for years I've been preaching cultural fit. And, since we had Coyle come in and talk about contribution and, just think about it from those terms, because, at the end it didn't work out. So, but overall, really, really great job, guys.
Nicely done. Lexi, Ryan, Elliott, would you be open to some coaching? Okay.
Always.
So I want to echo, nicely done. The texture of the story was really rich. So that went really well. I appreciate the flow. Likewise, you thought end to end. So that went really well. Love the picture, right? We're visual. So if you show me a picture of Cheryl, I'm going to get it, right? That I can relate to it. And somebody else said the goal is to transpose people into that story. Areas for improvement. Yeah, you want to have a plan, but you don't want to be scripted. And when you read anything, it just kind of takes people like, seriously, is it really reading to us? So I would counsel you, describe it, but don't read it. And right. Number two, somebody else brought it up. We don't need that level of detail. Let me tell you about point 37 and point 38 and too much detail kind of gets lost in, okay, now we're in the minutia and I'm going on I call it the tree trunk and the branches. You go too far on the branches and I'm kind of losing like what the trunk was about. I also wouldn't show, and this is whether in PowerPoint or Word, don't show the whole thing. Leave me wanting more, right? One of the coolest things about storytelling is having people on the edge of their seat of where's this going? So when you show me steps 1 through 7, and all you had to do was just zoom in on the Word document and just show us one section at a time. And that way I can just see that one. That's another reason I like my PowerPoints to build, because I'm going to guide you through the story without showing you the whole thing up front. So that might be another really good thing to think about is and I talk about the technique is your verbal has to match your visual. So ideal if what you're presenting is what we're seeing. And if I'm reading all that, I'm not listening to a thing you're saying. So I would have just put Cheryl, love the chocolate in the corner, right? Love the story. All that was great. I'm just trying to read, right, what's there, and I'm not really listening. And that's true for any leader on any stage. If people are busy reading your 6-point font on that chart, they're not listening to anything you're saying. Does that help? Does that resonate? Okay.
Thanks for the comments.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Again, I'm going to encourage everybody, watch the ums and the ahs and those. Just if you pause, and this is not going to happen overnight, but if you pause, collect your thoughts, articulate the next point, pause, articulate the next one, it's just going to come across a lot sharper, a lot crisper. Any questions, comments before we go to team 3? All right, team 3. This is Nick, Stephen, and David.
Let me see if I can figure this out. Does that work?
Yes.
All right. All right, let's get started. We're going to talk about Stephen Cook. Stephen Cook was a senior project manager for the SoCal division. He was a high performer, and the executive leadership team there in the division spent a lot of time with Stephen, including our good friend Nick. So as we know, life always throws us curveballs, and a curveball was thrown to Stephen. Him and his family wanted to possibly have the opportunity to relocate. which was a very hard decision for Stephen because he loved to work for Meritage Homes, loved what he did for Southern Cal division, loved who he worked with, really hung on to Nick. And so this decision came very tough for him. One day he came into the office and had to make that decision. Nick, on to you.
Yeah, Stephen Cook, our hero, the latest casualty of not wanting to live in good old California, came to me and had to have a frank conversation about the notion of relocating. This kind of moves to the outcome. So we were looking for relocation opportunities for our hero. He gave me a number of destinations that he and his wife and family would be open to moving to, which moves us to the why you. It's really why us. He loved working for Meritage Homes, and that's a compliment. Wanted to move to a different Meritage division. I began using my network here at Meritage, reaching out to both regional and corporate partners to try to find recs that were open in other divisions. That's where the us comes in. Worked with my good friend Dave Augenbaugh here out of our Dallas division, and identified an opportunity where we could move our hero potentially out of Southern California and over to our Dallas division, which really required Section 4 on how we innovate. We had to make sure we came up with a plan, both not only for Stephen, but for Southern California and Dallas, that would be mutually beneficial for all three parties, which we did. And I'll move it over to you, David.
And so for Stephen to move his family across the country, there were a lot of challenges that he was facing. His kids were in school. It was a bad time of year to do that. His wife works. California is halfway across the country from Texas. So there were a lot of things challenges that he had to overcome. Finding a house for his family to live in, acclimating himself with the new market. And so there was a lot of responsibility on all parts to make sure that this transition was done seamlessly. With respect to his portion of the accountability, it's going to be incumbent on him to take the first step forward to make sure that he is available to the people that he's moving to the new division with. He's got accountability to his family to make sure that the move is smooth. And then there's accountability on Nick's part to help usher him out, and my part to help welcome him to the new market, to help him find a place, to help him feel safe at our new company. And so in order to address that, we had to be agile, and we had to offer him some flexibility. We had to allow him to work in SoCal for a couple of weeks, and then work in Dallas for a couple of weeks, and go back and forth while he was finding a house and while he was getting his feet on the ground here in Dallas. If we weren't able to do that, if we weren't able to accommodate him and find a spot for him and help him do that, he would have left. He would have gone to another company. He would have gone into another market. We wouldn't have had the benefit of him staying with the company. And we know now that he's on the ground and he's doing a great job. Real success is going to be when Nick has an opportunity to backfill a opportunity in his division with an up and coming person, and I have a stronger team with somebody who's thriving.
Is that it?
Insane.
All right. Round of applause. Round of applause. Nicely done. Nicely done. All right, Ryan. One positive, one area for improvement.
My positive was the cliffhanger between Stephen and Nick, I thought was good. I was on the edge. I'm not saying it's joking. I was on the edge of my seat, like, okay, what happens next? It's not an area for improvement. It's my fault, not the group's fault. I know Stephen Cook. I know the story, so I was distracted by the fact that it's a real life story, and so I had a hard time. But that's my fault, not the group's fault.
Okay, no problem. Lexi, one positive, one area for improvement.
No, I thought it was a really good description. You guys, I don't know Stephen, so I kind of could follow. The only thing maybe I just missed it was the why. Why was Stephen moving? I know why people are leaving California predominantly, so I'm guessing that's what it was, but I think overall, really good job.
There's a couple boxes we have here. It's called affordability, social injustice,
Right.
political alignment. He checked all the boxes.
I gotcha. Okay.
Nice. All right, let's go to Chris.
I thought the storytelling was nice and seamless. You guys did a really good job of one slide, but kind of, it was contiguous the whole way. I like that. And the only opportunity is, Nick, Raleigh didn't get a call on this one, I don't think. So we would love 2 people. We already have 1 coming from SoCal. We would like 2. That's the opportunity.
Who's the other Southern? I've lost 8 people this year. Who's the other Southern California person?
Right.
I'll give you his name in 2 seconds.
SoCal is the farm system. Just feed the rest of the country. All right, Elliot. 1 positive, 1 area for improvement.
Well, positive, I felt like the story was seamless. I guess now that we're on our 3rd time through, I feel like I understand the exercise better. So just sitting back and listening to the story, it all made sense and it was well delivered. I guess the area for improvement, I guess from Ryan's comment, it's a true story. And so I just kind of start to think about it. And I don't know, why would he go to Dallas and not Austin? And why would you call David before you call me Nick? I guess that's the one disappointing part.
I mean, we don't want to tell you that, but he likes David more than he likes you. I just want to put it out there that
Or that can't be true.
He's trying to get out of California. Austin's the same place.
Yeah. The next person who doesn't want to live here, I will call all 8 of you and make sure that you've all had a chance, even if they're not someone that reports to your respective department.
Nice. Thank you for that, Elliot. Tatiana, 1 positive, 1 area for improvement.
For me, I think that we could clearly see now that this is a real story. So the way that they were telling the story was so natural, and the points were connected so seamless from one to another. So it just seemed like either they rehearsed it a million times or it was something that they knew about. So it just sounded really believable. I don't know this guy, so I didn't get distracted by anything else.
Yep.
God, I just forgot my second point. But I think overall you guys did a really great job. And if I think about it, sorry, it just escaped me.
Good.
But, I think it was very natural and it flowed really well.
Okay. Nick, Steven, David, are you open to some coaching? Okay.
Yeah, I'll give ourselves some coaching to start with.
Sure.
Bigger text.
Say again?
Bigger text.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So a positive story, great story. Flowed well. You thought of it end to end. So all of that, I'm pleased with. I didn't get the 1 in front of each text. I'm not sure what that was about because there was a 1 in front.
It makes you think. You're still
Clearly.
about it.
Clearly, that was intended to make us think. I would have liked a little more text or texture on the meat on the bone, right? So you described it. That story was great. My biggest word of caution too is twofold. One of your team members was Steven. And if your character is Steven, you have a potential of confusing who are we talking about here? Are we right? So just be cautious of that. 1. 2, a live case with a person. So an actual, I would have just be cautious about that because you, especially in mixed company, you don't know, you may not know. And again, independent of this presentation, I always change the gender. I changed, right? So let me tell you about Susan, who's moving from Southern Cal, but she wants to go with her family, live somewhere else, right? So just, you never know who might be in the audience that knows something or you say something that might trigger a scenario. So even if it's a live case, I would, have you watched movies of actual events and it says inspired by actual events because they don't want to do the exact thing? A, the entertainment factor. B, you leave out kind of personally highlighting some things. So just my strongest recommendation is think about that. So nice job, everybody. Well done. First pass at this, right? So what I want to show you is where this is coming from. Can you see my screen okay? So this is a technique called a story brand, guy named Donald Miller. And I'll share this PDF with you as well. But basically, you always start a hero's journey. Again, starts with a character. And the question you're trying to answer there is, what do they want? So Steven wanted a better quality of life. Drew was looking for a career. Cheryl looking for growth, looking for contribution, looking to make a difference. So the character has a need up front, and particularly for your projects, I cannot emphasize to you enough, build a believable character that has a definitive need. There's something they want. The very next place you're gonna go is they have a problem. And that problem could be external, it could be internal, it could be philosophical. I can't afford to live in SoCal. I'm just coming out of my academic foundation and I'm looking for a place to apply my learnings that appreciates me and my greenness, right? Whatever that problem is, that character has a problem. Next is they need a guide. They need you to understand their challenges, their opportunities. And what you want to emphasize with the guide is empathy and authority or credibility. So, and Meritage as a guide is too vague. It's a freaking company. Talk to me just like you gave me texture on your character. Obi-Wan, old, wise, former Jedi himself. The guide needs that same character attributes. Who then has a plan. Obi-Wan is going to turn Luke Skywalker into a Jedi. You're going to have to go through some training. So what is summary of your plan? The bullet points miss that. The bullet points are way too much detail. I need a summary of that plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. I want you to write somewhere, value and brevity. Value and brevity. I said I want texture. The story needs texture, but most films also go through an enormous amount of editing. And what you're doing is content compression. You're cutting out things that don't really contribute to that story. Next is the call to action, direct or transitional. They've got to do something. Obi-Wan can't snap his fingers and make Luke Skywalker a Jedi. He's got to go through that training. He's got to go through that experience. When we do all of this, it results in either success, so here's the successful results, or failure. Here's the tragic results. This hero's journey transforms you from something to something. So again, as you think about your projects, this will be really helpful to you. And I'll send you this template. I'll put it in Nour Forum. And you can download it and really think about, this is called a brand script. And this works for companies. This works for product launches. This has a lot of application. And what I want you to do is customize it for your story, whatever initiative you take on. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? You're with me so far. Any questions on brand story, brand script, hero's journey? Remember, I charge $5 per question, $10 if you want a legitimate answer. All right. So let's move on. If there's no question, I'm going to assume again, we're on the same page and we're going to move on. You can still see my screen, okay? All right. So let's shift to employee experience. A abbreviation for employee experience is EX. And EX matters more than ever before. And one of the more credible organizations is Gallup organization. So Gallup, let's start by definition. I told you earlier, I'm allergic to vagueness. So the employee experience is how the employees feel about what they interact with, what they observe, what they go through in the course of their employment journey at Meritage. Let me say it again. The employee experience, EX, is how they feel. How they feel about the stages, the steps, whatever they encounter. But it's not just the encountering, it's also what they observe over the course. It's not one day, it's not 1 week, it's not 1 month, it's over the course of their employment. I think it's important to define what is it that we're solving for. There's multiple facets there. Lexi, what are some of the facets that you see in this slide? If we're solving this for a problem, break down the problem for me. What are we thinking about?
Well, I mean, to me, it's most of employee experience is going to be about culture, right? And how they feel while they're at their job. So, you know, I think that and training, I mean, that's really what it boils down to. You know, people want to know that they're being valued, they're given the right tools and the right resources. And I think that enhances any employee experience.
Okay, so thank you for that. Let me further clarify my question. In looking at this statement, tell me what the variables are that would have to solve for. What would be some of the unknowns?
I guess I don't I mean, just how they feel would be.
How they feel is, that's fine. How they feel is one, right? Elliot, what's another variable we got to solve for?
I guess what they encounter and observe.
What they encounter, what they observe. How do we know? Here's the challenge. Here's what I'm getting to. A lot of people build an employee experience without ever understanding what that employee encounters, what they observe, how they feel. Nick, what else are we solving for? Variable in this statement. You're muted.
I don't know about anything that hasn't already been said. I mean,
okay, how about the employee journey? How well do we understand the journey? Right? David, give me one last one. Subtle.
There's a variable, the course of the journey. I mean, it's variable how long it may or may not last.
Yep. Garrett, give me another one. It's a subtle one. That's okay. That's okay. If you're struggling, that's okay. This is the goal is to make you think, right? Ryan, do you see it? It's a subtle one.
I doubt it, but I'd struggle with feel because that seems to be extremely subjective.
Yeah, that's definitely one, right? How about the organization? Is Meritage exactly the same in every location? You would hope so, but in my experience, that's not the case. So an employee could feel great and have amazing encounters and observations, and their employee journey is brilliant in SoCal, and it falls apart in Austin. Or you know what? It's mediocre in Dallas. Or you know what? It's fine in Austin and Dallas. Right? What the hell are they doing over in Charlotte? So don't assume.
Everybody's leaving.
Right? I don't know what that's all about. Don't assume. And this is something that I want you to think about. What variables are we solving for in that statement? What are the unknowns? What are the ones that we're making assumptions about? Right? Anytime I see a statement, anytime I see a definition, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What does that look like? How do we know that? And I'm trying to sharpen your analytical mind when you look at something. Don't just take it for granted. Don't look at this and say, well, that's nice. Ooh, I like the red color. Who gives a shit about the red color? What I care about is, are we consistent in what we do and how we do it? Because that's what matters. Right? So I'm going to ask you again, what variables are we solving for? What are the unknowns? What are the things that could be different across the organization, right? So here's a couple of data points you need to hear. Number one reason people change jobs. They don't feel like they're learning. They don't feel like they're growing. I've hit a ceiling. I don't see where my career path is. So in Curve Benders, when you get it, I wrote about the career lattice versus the career ladder. Sometimes, right, lateral moves are just fine because it's a chance to learn and grow. I love Drew's comment and the internship that Tatiana talked about because Drew's going to learn a lot of different things. 2 in 10 agree that their performance is managed in a way that motivates them to do outstanding work. You know what that means? 8 out of your 10 people are doing mediocre work at best. 2 out of 10 strongly agree that their performance is managed in a way that motivates them to do outstanding work. Only 12% of employees strongly agree that the organization does a great job of onboarding. Right? Welcome to the company. Here you go. Here's a laptop. What? You want business cards? Not sure we have those. Supplies? Yeah, go figure it out. I'm busy. Hey, good luck. Wait, what? Right? So this is why people leave. And I'm trying to tell you, every executive I'm talking to right now is struggling with talent. We can't find enough people. We can't find enough good people. We can't find people that have an incentive to show up and do a great job. There's a reason, right? Any questions on this? Comments on this? All right. So, handful of data points that might be useful to you. So there's actually definitive data that points that increased happiness. And a lot of this is going to make sense to you. And again, I know you're all seasoned leaders, but they've actually, Gallup has measured 20% increased productivity when that employee is happy, when that employee feels content, when that employee feels like my work matters, right? Disengaged, conversely, I was floored by this. I was like, wait, what? $450 to $550 billion a year in US alone. And you worried about people in the office? This has nothing to do with an office. This has everything to do with they're collecting a paycheck. They're clocking in and they're clocking out. 64% of employees don't feel that they have a strong work culture. Lexi brought up culture. Yeah, they don't think it's strong. You know how? So let me ask you, David, why would an employee feel like, or what's an example that an employee would, remember we said feel, observe, encounter? What are some examples that they wouldn't feel you have a strong work culture?
Well, if there's no rudder, I mean, a company with a culture knows what's important to the people within the culture, within the company.
Yeah. Well, Elliot, what's one thing an employee could observe, feel, or encounter that would say we don't have a strong culture?
I think the obvious one is just straight communication or being treated fairly from situation to situation.
Right, favoritism, right? Whoa. Why did Elliot was talk really nice to him and kind of ugly to me, right? Stephen, what's one thing an employee could observe, encounter, feel that's just not a strong culture?
Decisions are made in silos.
Right? Yeah, if you talk to anybody else over there, I'll kill you. Yeah. A lot of it comes from, and you may want to capture this somewhere, a lot of it comes from the the behaviors that they observe. And often it's the manager, it's the leader that models that behavior, right? Lack of communication, miscommunication, mistreatment, right? Interestingly enough, not being available, right? And it's not anybody's fault. The managers, have you noticed that heat transfers down, right? So the president, division president asks you something, you ask your team something, the team asks the next group something. And everybody's good people, good intentions, right? So busy doing their thing that they don't have time for their people. So that employee feels like I'm not important. That's why the leaders I coach, the leaders I work with, I continuously tell them, commit to less, but be fanatical about showing up for the commitments you make. So don't schedule back to back, because if one of them runs over, we've all been there, right? It has a ripple effect on the rest of your day. Don't overlap commitments. It's okay to push back and say no to some things. Brand, culture. You remember I told you corner office's role? Brand, culture, right? Financial incentives aren't enough. Employee satisfaction rose by 37%, not at Bob's Bicycle Shop, at Google, because they offered an employee support initiative. That wasn't more money in their paycheck. It was, here's somebody to go talk to. Here's somebody to, right? You don't have babysitters. We're going to start babysitting off, a service at, right, childcare on site. You don't have transportation. We'll figure out how to get there. Employee satisfaction, which we all know is difficult to increase, by 37%. Huh, this is an interesting one. Unhappy employees take 15 more sick days each year than the average. 2 weeks. They're under the weather. Yeah, I don't feel good. I don't feel like going in the office today. I wonder what's the source of that unhappiness, right? Engaged employees outperform their peers by 147% in earnings per share. 147% outperform their peers, competitive peers, in earnings per share. When they get a choice on where, when, how to work, consistently have a higher level of satisfaction, innovation, and job performance. And this was pre-pandemic. This was pre-work from home. If they get a choice on when, where, and how they work, again, you'll read an entire section in Curve Benders on work-life blending. Work-life blending. Balance, I believe, is a fallacy. Look at Garrett flex on us with his background. Did anybody else notice that? I mean, I don't know if he knows there's bonuses in this program that will come his way by doing that, but that's just Garrett. Look at that. So joking aside, do you, and we talked about this, do you really care when and where they show up, or do you care about the quality of the work? It's a good, I don't have an answer. It's just a good question to ask. Lexi, do you care when and where they show up, or do you care about the quality of the work?
Quality of work.
Ryan, how about you?
Hours don't matter if the work is good.
The outcome versus the output.
Right, we talked about that yesterday. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. Quality work.
David, how about you?
I don't know. In all honesty, yes, of course, quality of work is of critical importance. How do you build it? Well, obviously there are ways, but it is really difficult to build a true culture remotely. And a lot of our culture is built on interpersonal and deep relationships, and walking down the hall and shooting the bull and the water cooler. And I mean, it's not to say that it can't be, but that's tough to replace.
Nick, what's your answer to that? What's your answer to you can't build a culture remotely?
Well, I just had my first in-person meeting in 2021 with my leadership team, so I'm a little bit more aligned with David that obviously quality of work is that's a given, right? You need quality of work, but absolutely trying to have a creative culture. It seems to be better with in-person activity versus trying to do it virtually.
Yeah.
So, I'm in agreement. The world's probably going to go to a flexible place, but I am also very much looking forward to seeing a lot more people in my division than otherwise have been here for last year.
So I'm not arguing with the value of in-person, right? So what I'm suggesting is we've just sent 100 million people to work from home in the last 14 months. Forcing all of them to come back tomorrow, I just don't think that's going to happen. 2, think about it a second. Particularly those that have a commute, particularly those that really enjoyed time with their kids. You better give me a pretty compelling reason of why I should come into the office. And I got to tell you, David, and I'm saying this respectfully, bullshitting around the water cooler, I'm just not convinced that's compelling enough. So, right. So I absolutely get value out of collaboration and the camaraderie. And listen, I've built a career around this idea of the value of relationships, right? So I'm wholeheartedly all for that. We just better think twice, because if you drag them in and they're like, why the hell am I here? I could have done all this at home. Then I think it's a missed opportunity.
Well, that's not, yeah, don't misunderstand me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the other side, we need to be as equally careful about missteps on the other side and the impact on the other side.
Unequivocally, yes. Again, data points to when they have a choice in when, where, how they work, they're happier. They're more productive. They get a lot done. Does that mean exclusively work from home? No. But, and there's no, oh, write this down. Nothing ever good comes after but. Nothing ever good comes after but. And when you say but or however is a fancy but. Because what happens is you just refuted everything you said before it. So the key is yes and. Yes and. It's actually, you're going to chuckle. By the way, a great book by that title, Yes and. And it comes from improv. If you've ever been to improv, there was a Martian, right? If the next comedian says but, you just killed that story. So what do they say? And he's got 3 arms. And, right? So yes and builds on the story, but kills it. Bud snips it in the bud. So practice on yes and, not but and however. I just caught myself doing that, right? So practice yes and. Last but not least, 25% of jobs of success is based on IQ. 75% is your brain believing that behavior matters, that connects to other people, right? And your brain manages stress. So intelligence alone won't do it. But you need to hear this. In my experience, it is very difficult to train people on intelligence. It's very difficult to teach people to think. How many of you saw the movie Evan Almighty with Steve Carell? You remember seeing that? You remember Morgan Freeman as God? In one scene, he's in a restaurant and he's talking to Steve Carell's character's wife, who's leaving him and with the kids, and the conversation is something around, I'm paraphrasing, if you ask God for more patience, he doesn't give you more patience. He gives you opportunities to practice being patient. So if you want your teams to think, you've got to create opportunities for them to think. You've got to create opportunities for them to solve the problem or solve problems, make decisions, communicate without you involved. So I think that's a real strong opportunity of helping them. Because, by the way, another thing I've learned might be useful to you. No growth ever comes from a place of comfort. Let me say it again. No growth ever comes from a place of comfort. So if you want to grow, if you want your teams to grow, we've got to get them outside of their perceived comfort zone, outside of, well, I kind of know how to do that, but I don't know how to do that. That's okay. None of us do. Last time I checked, none of us are born with any of this. You know, how many companies do you know of that were like not a video culture before this pandemic started, right? Most of them, they're not really a video culture. But guess what? Overnight, we had to figure it out. What did Tatiana say? I figured out Teams. Most people hadn't heard of Teams before, or Zoom for that matter, before this pandemic. All right? None of us are born with any of this. We figure it out as we go. Any questions on the metrics? I wanted to show you the metrics of why EX matters. Any questions on any of this? So again, I want us to go beyond the intellectual understanding that employee experience matters to what can we do about it? How can we really leverage it? Questions, comments, anything from here?
Nour, do we have any idea how they measure this stuff? I mean, productivity.
Absolutely. Yeah. These guys do. Gallup does a ton of surveys. They do. Have you heard of Net Promoter Score?
Vaguely, generally.
Yeah. We'll talk. So Net Promoter Score, based on your experience, would you recommend? It's one question. Based on your experience, would you recommend us as an employer. 0 to 6 is actually negative. 7 and 8 is neutral. 9 and 10 is positive. You subtract the positive from the negative and you get a percentage score. And it's typically done for customers. Well, you can also apply the net promoter score to employees. And more importantly, if that tells you what's happening, Ryan, we use something called sentiment analysis. And it basically analyzes what people say. So if somebody says, yeah, Meritage culture is fine, last time I checked, they're not exactly raving about it, right? So based on their answers, this engine we use asks follow-up questions and then analyzes that text.
So, but for example, how do I know number 6, engaged employees? Well, how do I measure engagement? What's an engaged employee? And then how do I know how do I measure the outperformance? How do I know that A outperformed B?
Yeah.
I doubt it's Lucy at the strawberry chocolate factory and how many chocolates she took off the conveyor belt. I mean, these seem like hard to quantify metrics.
No, great point. And again, that's why Gallup is very good at what they do. They measure every stage. So they measure, revenue per employee. They measure, performance, output per employee and function. Ryan, nth degree of detail. They measure employee performance, employee engagement, employee influence. So they have all kinds of metrics that they measure. I'll post a couple of their papers in the forum and you'll see that the granularity that they go through. Just like, have you heard of the Gardner Group? So these guys also, Gardner, Forrester, these are research analysts. They sell that research to companies. That's exactly what Gallup does on the employee side. But I'll post a couple of the data points in there for you. Or sorry, the papers, white papers. Other questions, other comments? All right, stay with me a couple more minutes and then we'll take a break. So the opportunity is really what's called employee experience journey mapping. And in that journey, you remember the definition, right? What they observe, what they experience, how they feel about kind of that whole employee experience for the duration of their employment journey. Remember that? Well, throughout, there's some touch points. I call those touchstone moments. And Lexi actually, I don't know if she knew this or not, but she brought up a few of them. So if you break it down, right, we got to attract the right person, right? The Drew, the intern. We got to hire him. We got to onboard him. Then ideally, we engage them to perform and we develop them. And the more we develop them, the more engaged they are. The more engaged they are, the more we develop them. So it becomes a nice little loop right there. And then at some point, they're no longer contributing, right? Our values are no longer aligned. The job, the function gets eliminated, all the changes that happen, and they depart. So what's really important is sandwich that with your purpose, brand, and culture, with this idea of workforce planning, workforce management. So I'm working with several clients on anticipating not just the jobs we have today, but what jobs will we need on the other side of this pandemic? And it's a fascinating exercise in really thinking through what does that journey look like? How do they go through it? So here's some touchstone moments. You ready? That first interview. Capturing what does that look like? Their very first day at the job. Are they coming in? Are they doing Zoom? I've got clients executives who haven't met any of their direct reports because they joined the company in the middle of the pandemic and nobody's traveling. I've got clients that are doing all their interviews remotely and they haven't had the candidates visit any of their offices or factories or distribution centers or any of those. So this pandemic is throwing a monkey wrench in this, but it also shows your maneuverability, right? Your ability to adapt to these environments. The first one-on-one with their direct manager, right? The first one-on-one with that direct manager. The first full performance review. You've been here now 3 months. You've been here 6 months. You've been here, right? That whole experience. Other activities that are important part of that onboarding. So one of my clients brings in, it's fascinating profile. They're bringing college athletes. They bring in former military folks. They basically bring people in, and it's a 6 week onboarding. Each week, they're in a highly regulated space. Each week, you're trained Monday through Thursday. You go through training, there's a shadow program. You're basically learning Monday through Thursday. Friday, every Friday, you have a test. 80% and above, you stay. You get a 79, we politely thank you. You've been paid for however long you've been on board. We move on. This last class, they brought in 72, 12 finished. Right? That's their onboarding process. But here's the critical part. Here's the amazing part. They went back to Ryan's question. How do they measure this stuff? They went back last 5 years. They've got an 86% retention rate of the 12 that stays. So, and they do this every 6 months. They're constantly bringing in great people, but they've got a very high retention rate because that's the level of you basically weed out. It's almost like reminds me of the the Navy SEALs Hell Week, right? 6 weeks of this, and you're gonna filter out people that are just not good people, just not a fit for that culture. And they test you on intelligence. They test you on, do you retain stuff? Do you understand stuff? Do you get it? Do you get the products? Do you get the market? Do you get the, right? The employee's birthday. Why would Stephen, why would an employee's birthday be a touchstone moment?
And everybody likes to be celebrated on their birthday. That's your special day.
That's your special day. David, why would it be a touchstone moment?
You know, it's I don't know what to say other than what Steve.
I love that. So if you don't know, just say I don't know. Elliot, why would it be a touchstone moment?
I guess you have to take the opportunities to celebrate when you have them, and it's important to that person.
Got it. Love it. Chris, where are most employees on their birthdays?
Where are they? With family and friends. So it's very personal.
Well, a lot of times they're actually at work.
Not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
I think meant celebrating. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, they're at work. That's their special day, right? Everybody, and you guys, Stephen and David said it, right? Elliot said it's their special day, and they're stuck at work. Yeah, can we celebrate with the family tonight, or maybe this weekend, or last weekend, or whatever? But what a fantastic opportunity to make a big deal of their birthday while they're at work. I love the ideas. You know, I've got one client that does spot bonuses. I've got another client that completely unannounced, right? This is pre-pandemic. They would have that birthday cake, birthday for lunch, and then would tell the employee, not just go home rest of the day, but actually would plan something special for them, right? One client literally hired a babysitter and a chauffeur and a limo, right, to go pick him up, took the guy and his wife to dinner. Just wanted to say thank you for all that you do for us. It's never about expensive. It's always about thoughtful. It's always about being thoughtful. But the employee's birthday is a big touchstone moment. Training activities. Again, I think Lexi brought this up as well. Training activities, investing in their development. Have you heard the old joke about a CFO that says, what happens if we train all these people and they leave? And the CEO says, what if we don't and they stay? Think about it. Right? Development of the people, critical. Team events, they're important. Team events, David, this is exactly building on your comment. It's camaraderie. It's bringing people together. It's what Nick said. I value that immensely. I'm talking right now. I'm talking to 12 to 14 different clients about facilitating, moderating, leading an offsite this summer or this fall. And it's not 100 people. It's 8, it's 10, it's 12 leaders that get together. Still, everybody's been you got to be vaccinated to show up, right? We're still going to be socially distant. We're going to probably be in an outdoor venue, but we're planning these in July, and we're planning these in August, and we're planning these in September. So those team events are critical. Company restructurings. Why would that be a touchstone moment? Ryan.
That's a stressful time.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my Lord. Like who isn't on pins and needles? Like, am I going to have a job? Who's going to be my boss? Where will I be? What would I be doing? Any kind of restructuring. By the way, I think I mentioned this yesterday. When there's lack of information, people make things up. So critical that you communicate consistently about what we're doing, where we're going. And then last but not least, exit interviews. You always want to leave on a high note. You want to make sure they leave with a positive impression of the company. Don't ever skip an exit interview because they're invaluable in you getting insights from just how their experience was. I've taken people that have worked for me to a lunch or dinner. It's a little awkward because they're leaving, but you know what? Last time I checked, you can't hold anybody hostage, right? And if they leave on high note, like, think about it. There could be a client. They could become a referral partner. They could become just on and on and on. So that's really important. So let me pause. Any questions, comments? Anything we've covered so far?
No, that's a really important list. I mean, I feel like I could probably speak at length on all those topics, but I'm not going to bore everybody. But trying to implement procedures and processes around all 10 of those things in my division, and they're all really important. If they're executed well, you get a lot of benefit, and if they're not executed or executed at all, they can be pretty detrimental.
So, Nick, thank you for bringing that up. I actually would rather you do fewer on that list exceptionally well than do all of them crappy. So
It's easy to give someone a birthday card, so you can keep that one on the list.
I'd rather you do few of them exceptionally well. How many of you, by show of hands, remember traveling? You remember traveling? We used to do this before, Pat. You remember these things, these places we used to stay at called hotels? You remember hotels? My brother worked for Marriott for 30 years, and that's where I learned it from. Think about it a second. Think about your last hotel experience. If the check-in went well, we'll excuse almost anything else, right? Conversely, if the check-in doesn't go well, we look for reasons to complain. And that's human nature. So how's the check-in at your place, right? And I've got story after story. I'm rolling my carry-on to the front lobby at midnight. I've been delayed. I couldn't fly. I took the train because of a massive snowstorm. I'm hungry. I'm tired. It's been a long ass day. I'm rolling my carry-on up to the front counter. What do you think she says? Checking in? No, I like to have my tires changed. It's just like, seriously? I'm the only card back there, and they've got cards and sleeves and it has my name. The only one who hasn't checked in, right? And I told you, it snowed. I get to my room freezing. Oh my Lord. I'm pretty sure I slept with my parka on that night, right? It's just like, we don't think about those things. So that employee, well, we'll talk about customer experience next, but those employee journey touch points, critical. And we don't pay enough attention to them. So I've got 2:37. Why don't we come back at, what do you think, 2:50? Right? Turn off your cameras, mute your audio, 2:50. Please get up, stretch, get a drink, get a snack if you need to, but disengage, come back at 2:50. All right, so So you saw again, we call these, I call these touchstone moments, right? And it's that employee experience journey. I'd rather you focus on doing few of them exceptionally well, as I said, versus all of them really poorly. Some of them are going to be lower hanging fruit. Others are going to take a little more time, effort, like training. I don't believe number 7. I don't believe training is one size fits all. As a matter of fact, we don't do classroom training. I take people out. I get them out of their office, out of their comfort zone. We call it a learning sprint, a learning expedition, right? And we have adventure, we have urban, we have outdoor, or relax. So getting people out of that environment to learn, and different people learn different ways. So really thinking through the team events. Last time I checked, none of us are crossing our arms and falling backwards, right? So that kind of stuff, to me, some of it is just goofy. So we got to think through and be intentional about all of this. When you do this, and this is going to really resonate with Ryan, when you do this and do this well, here's what happens. Traditional, if you think of an employee lifetime value, and this is on the output is really the score. The output is the quality of it. A lot of it, hiring in a lot of places just not done very well. But we get them on board and it works. We onboard them, it's okay. We kind of do their reviews. We'd have a compensation review. And at some point, their engagement kind of declines and they leave. Conversely, if we elevate the quality of onboarding, if we do performance appraisals, right, better, if we invest in that ongoing training, by definition, what we're seeing is this extended engagement. They stay longer. They create a bigger impact. So the orange area becomes that enterprise value creation. They add greater value. So there's a definitive ROI when you get them engaged, when they're happy, when the satisfaction is high, when they enjoy what they're doing, when they feel challenged, when they're learning, when they're growing, when they feel like their ideas are heard, right? So if I go back to that initial statement, what are they enduring? What are they observing? How do they feel in the course of their employment? That's what really matters. That's what that experience journey is about. So I like checklists. Let me give you a chance to read that a second. And again, Lexi brought it up. It's the culture, right? And the culture will create that experience. And you know this. A players don't want to hang out with C players. A players want to be around. They want to associate. I'm coaching a general counsel. Ryan, you're going to love this. I'm coaching a general counsel right now who is leaving his company. And between us, it's a really nice pay package he's walking away from because he's not learning. He's not growing. He doesn't feel like, and he's been there a bunch of years. So he's going to a startup, even a smaller startup than where he's at. And he's so excited about where he's going because he's like, I'm going to be around people that want to make a difference and they're engaged and they're right. And he's just really excited about this next role. And it's actually this is the crazy part, less of a compensation, more upside, but because it's an early stage company earlier, but he's just excited about the people that he's going to work with, right? So retaining that top talent, driving performance, strengthening the employment brand, right? How many of you have heard of Glassdoor? Everybody, right? I'm amazed of how many leaders are clueless to what's being said about their company, about them on Glassdoor. Take a wild guess of where these employees are going. They're all talking. They're all, right? And they're interviewing you as much as you interview them. So here's my 4-step checklist. Here we go. Capture the touchstone events, those touchstone moments that have a higher chance of shaping their experience. You got to capture what those are. I gave you a list in the previous slide. Are those the right ones for you? Are those the most relevant ones for you? Right? 2 is you got to align those with your unique purpose, brand, culture. You're not Lennar. You're not, any other builder. So what's unique about you? What's unique about your purpose, your brand, your culture? One of the first images I showed you had that sandwiched in, right? That's critical. Measure those. This goes back to Ryan's comment. Do we measure those? Do we know how long is our interview to hire? Do we know how long it is from onboarding to first performance review? Measure those things. Measure what happens in those things. Measure some of those metrics in those touchstone moments. How many birthdays do we have going on this month? These are all critical in if you genuinely want to elevate the employee experience. That's what I heard from Javier. That's what I heard from Clint. That's the whole point of part of what we're doing. I could talk to you till I'm blue in the face about agility and innovation. If we're going to focus all this towards employee elevating, employee and customer experience, this is something we got to invest in. Because I'm willing to bet you, Drew, that intern, is evaluating, is this a place I want to come learn, grow, commit to? Cheryl is a very competent, very capable paralegal. Is this a place where I can learn and grow? Stephen, yes, SoCal may not be for me, but I'm really happy in Dallas. It's not Austin. Let's be honest. Dallas is not Austin, but, right? So measuring those. Last but not least, prioritize the talent development. Prioritize management development. Basically, I told you, the number one reason I believe they leave is they get bored. They're not challenged. They don't feel like they're learning. They're not growing. This doesn't necessarily have to be a promotion. Give them broader roles, broader realm of responsibilities. Ask them to do more. Teach them something new. So one of my favorite things to do in a leadership development program is we bring the leaders, and a lot of times I ask them to bring their plus one. What, their spouse? No. Bring somebody in your organization that you believe, right? That next generation leadership, that next, right? So who is that person? It may not be a direct report, might be a little lower in the organization, but could really benefit from these 2 days. Bring them with you and let them see what senior leaders in the company interact with and do. So just food for thought. But if you prioritize, and this is one-on-one, this is one to few, and this is one to many. 1-to-1, 1-to-few, 1-to-many. It's as much about coaching and mentoring as it is external resources like me. Questions, comments on this? Pretty straightforward checklist. And it's all about, you got to retain that top talent first. By the way, I had a chance to meet Jim Collins of the Good to Great fame. In one of his books, he talks about the first stage that a company goes through that they're in trouble is they start losing great talent they should be able to retain. Financial woes is actually step number 4. When organizations lose exceptional talent that they should be able to retain, that's a yellow flag. Doesn't tell you the whole story, but it tells you a pretty good indication of what's happening, right? By the way, if brand new employee churn is high, that directly points to onboarding. Because what they got in the interview process, you were dating, right? What they experience when they come on board is like, that's not what I signed up for, right? So these are some of the things to pay attention to. Any questions, comments? All right, so we're going to do a breakout. I don't want to talk at you. We're going to do a breakout. Let's go back to the list of, I want to go back to the list of the existing. So remember this. Go ahead and grab a screenshot. If you don't have this in your notes, in your breakout, I want you to grade yourself. Out in your small groups, grade yourself. A, we rock at this. B, literally think about each of them. A, we rock at it. B, we got some work to do. C, F, we're failing. A, B, C, or F. Give yourself a scorecard A, we rock at this. We're awesome at this. B, we're pretty good at it. C, man, it needs work. F, we're failing at this. We are so bad at this. Any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. Small group. Here we go. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to create a breakout room. I'm going to sign automatically. I'm going to create 4 different rooms. So there's 3 of you basically in a room. So here, hold on one second. I'm going to make sure, let me make sure I push Carissa to 4. Yeah. So here we go. Let's do this for 10 minutes. So again, I'll call you back, but 10 minutes. Go through the list of 10 and just grade yourself. A, B, C, or F. More importantly, that you understand why you give it that grade than just filling the blank, giving the grade. So here we go. All the rooms are open. 10 minutes.
David,
You're muted.
It didn't come.
Somebody
It
gave
didn't
me
come with a
the church.
microphone.
Okay, go. Well,
that's awesome, David.
We're
Hey,
gonna
what you talking
we're gonna buy her a coffee cup or a T-shirt or something. You're on mute. Okay.
Are you
So-
guys all talking through your computer
yes.
Yes.
or is it through your phone? So I always call in from my phone and I don't realize that I have to unmute myself twice. Like it's kind of annoying, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
I'm unmuted on my phone and then I have to go and unmute it on the computer. So
why don't
sorry
you
about that.
come to the computer like the rest of us?
Because there's a lot of people that come, that walk by my office and they tend to open the door and just talk and we would be interrupted all day.
Yeah.
Regina she knows how they roll here in Orlando.
Got it.
Mhm.
Got it. All right.
It's safer.
So thank you for doing that. My goal was threefold. One is introspection. And I'm trying to tell you, we're all so busy. We don't make enough time for introspection and enough time to think. That's number one. Number two, I like scorecards. I like grading. I like thinking about, you know what? I think we do that well. I'm honestly not sure. So my strongest counsel to you is if you're not sure, it's okay. Just put a question mark next to it. And I'm going to go figure out that part. If that employee experience is important to you, don't assume. Well, I think we do that well. I'm pretty sure we do that well. Again, I think and I'm pretty sure, just kind of a little vague for me. You know what? I know for a fact that every employee that walks in gets this checklist and they get a mentor, they get a buddy that works with, right? That's a very different, I think maybe kind of we do this, we don't do this, right? So I like the introspection. I like the grading. The last part is comparing notes. And what should have come out of it was, ooh, I gave us an A there. Why are you guys a C? What are you not doing? Or wait, we're an F and you're an A. What are you doing that we're not doing? There's a huge, and I asked several of you, how often do you collaborate with your counterparts in this program or just across the company? And I got to tell you, the consistent feedback was, well, that division is very different and they do things very different than we do. And we're just focused on, my market. And last time I checked, I haven't met, maybe you have one, but I haven't met the best practices officer. Who's the chief best practice officer? And if you don't compare notes within this group, I'm not sure where some of that collaboration is going to come from, right? So by show of hands, how many out of the 10, how many have 4 A's? Raise your hand. Who has 4 A's? Keep your hand up. 4 A's. Look at that. Okay, 5 A's. 5 A's. 6 A's. Tatiana, check 6 of the 10 are A's. That's ridiculous.
We put a lot of effort into onboarding for my department.
Man, that's awesome. All right, by show of hands, how many have at least 5 B's? 5 B's? 5 B's. There's 5 B's. There's 2, 6 B's. 6 B's. Okay. How many have at least 3 C's? 3 C's? No C's, really? Wow, 3 C's. Okay. How many have at least 2 F's? 2 F's? No F's? Wow. All right. Did you keep it real? Did you get no? So kudos. Great that you're, sounds like you guys react together. That's awesome. Here's probably my biggest question. If I went and randomly picked 10 people in your division, in your business unit, and asked them the same questions, how confident are you that they would give you the same scores? Right? So we all have a confidence bias. We all have it. I know that to be true. Well, really, do you? And is that true from your lens, your perspective, or collectively? So that would be a really good exercise just for you. Especially, by the way, if your project turns out to be the employee experience, I can't emphasize to you enough. And if you come to July and tell me you haven't spoken to anybody, we're gonna have a come to Jesus hug. I'm a big believer of come to Jesus hugs, right? Because you're making stuff up, right? Whether it's a customer or employee experience, we're gonna talk about go talk to one, go meet with one, go sit down with one, go ask them, because you're now gonna get firsthand primary information, not hearsay or your perceptions or whatever, right? Any questions, any comments on that checklist? I want to keep us moving. No questions, no comments, no issues, all good? All right, so we talked about, let's see. We talked about, I gave you this list. Gardner also directly ties, which is a good segue, ties employee engagement to customer experience. So low importance to customer experience, like the left-hand side, the gray, employee experience is not really that important to customer experience. Blue, directly correlated, directly relates to, right? Again, Gardner's one of these, again, analyst research firms, and they've measured happy employees often turn into happy customers, right? And so I want to switch gears to now customer experience. A lot of very similar things are going to apply here. You just have, believe it or not, more control. You have a lot more control over your employee experience because customers get their information, get there from a lot of other places. You don't have as much control over that. But here are the big reasons why people invest in their customer experience. Obviously, a big one is retention, right? I'm sure you don't want to just sell a couple one home. You want them to have a great experience with you and come back and buy subsequent homes, maybe in another neighborhood, or level up to the next home. Improving customer satisfaction. They all have friends. They're going to talk to their friends, right? How sad. Hey, where'd you guys buy this from? Oh, this company. I don't know if you heard of Meritage. Oh, huh. And how was it? Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, some of it early on, they were great. Oh my God, the warranty stuff, they just suck the life out of you, right? And then increasing the cross-sell, upsell, if you have additional services, right? Maintenance, if you have other things to sell, that customer experience becomes big. In your world, I'm not eating candy. These are Hall's throat lozenges. In your world, I would think you really want to take advantage of the referrals and recommendations and people speaking highly of your brand, right? In that, by the way, if they move, I don't know if you saw Wall Street Journal had 7 million people, 7 million households moved counties in 2020. That's 500,000 more than they did in 19. So if I had a good experience with Meritage in Phoenix and I took a transfer to Raleigh, would your brand be top of mind? Would your brand be, let's go find another Meritage community, right? That's another big reason of why you would do this. We're also seeing it. I found a couple of really cool examples. Like these guys do kitchen retailers, right? And look at the number one. What is the customer experience? How's customer service different than customer experience? That's a key one, right? Are online and offline experiences consistent? So write down somewhere for me, omni-channel. Omni-channel. We've been talking about omni-channel for a while. It has just become really pervasive. And the technology is there to make that as seamless as possible. So let me give you an example. I start doing something with my bank on my phone. Then I get interrupted or distracted and I abandon that. The technology is there for me to pick that up later that day, and it remembers where I was on the journey. Let's say an application process. Let's say some sort of a reconciliation. It remembers where I was and takes me there, not to the beginning. So that's a seamless on and offline experience, right? 4 is customer data being leveraged effectively. An ideal customer experience journey generates data points at every step of the way. Write this down for me. Remember information for people, not about them. You want to remember information for people, not about them. Ryan, what do you think that might mean?
I think it would mean to enhance the customer experience in some other way instead of so I can sell it to Google or Google can sell it about me.
Love that about you. When you remember information for people, it's for their benefit. When you remember information about people, it's for your benefit, so you can spam them. The number one people disengage from a company's marketing is that it's too promotional and it's all about you. I don't care about you. I care about how I'm better off because of you. So is that customer data being leveraged effectively? Leveraged, not used. And then what's the ROI for us building a great experience? Right? I think we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Let me give you a second to read it. Self-service. I'm intelligent. I kind of know what I want. Let me just do it myself. Let me learn. Let me figure it out. Let me get my questions answered. I am after self-service technology. Don't intrude. Don't get all up in my grill. I like you, not that much. I don't need you in my business right now. Let me just go figure it out myself. And there's this, I like this pyramid, this framework of really powerful experiences, right? So start at the bottom, furnish information I can use. I think Nick yesterday rattled off a whole bunch of stuff, right? Floor plan and packages and features. And so stop selling me, help me buy. Provide me information.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but did the picture change?
Are you not seeing it?
I still see the, what is it, the home by me?
5 questions slide. We're still on that one.
5 questions. So the whole time I've been sharing wisdom, I've been dropping wisdom on you and you haven't seen it. Let me try something because this is cool and I want you to be able to see it. Can you see my screen right now?
We just see the 5 questions at kitchen retailers.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Garrett, you had your hand up earlier. Did you have a question?
It was just a passing thought as we were talking about the customer experience. And yes, we want referrals and we want everybody to have a great customer experience, but through the sale process and through the construction process, another benefit to us wanting the customer to have a great experience is because it's going to cost us resources later on if they don't, right? They're going to demand more of our time, our people's time, we have to invest more in having more customer care and warranty folks if we don't provide that up front. So it's not just on resales and referrals and things of that nature. It's also just, it's gonna require more resources.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So can you see my screen now or no?
No, just says started screen sharing.
Okay. So it was too good to be true, right? It was too good to be true that we would get through. Go ahead and go to the next one. So here you go. Gardner says, you know, there's this pyramid of powerful experiences, right? At the very bottom, furnish information I can use. This is what I was trying to tell you. Don't sell me. Give me a chance. Help me buy. Help me independently evaluate options. Help me look at and compare and contrast different packages. Interestingly enough, on websites, that compare feature is consistently the customers who buy say that helped their decision-making process. So if you've seen columns compare this package with this package, what do you get with this one versus the other one, right? So that's all that foundational part of the pyramid. Furnish information I can use. Next, solve your problems when I ask. Solve your problems when I ask. Don't shove it in my face. I don't need a mortgage calculator pop up to get shoved in my face. I don't need you to upsell me packages. Just offer it when I ask. Next, resolve my needs when I ask. Two different things. First one is your problem. First one is your issue. First one is, I can't find this. I can't, right? Where do I go for that? Why this isn't working? Solve your problem, your issues when I ask you to. Resolve my needs are about me. I'm curious about this. How does that work? I went to the model home and I noticed this piece, that part, right? Is that granite? Is that quartz? Can you do hardwood floors or is that laminate? Provide what I need without me asking is now, wait, what? That's so cool. I didn't even ask for that. And they already have me. Would you like to, right? That whole chat in the top, bottom right corner of a lot of websites we go to, we're here to help, right? And what's happening is, again, the technology is there for become more intelligent. So when they start to find out about financing, that's when you can actually change that to a mortgage calculator. You can change that to, would you like to pre-qualify for this range, right? The very pinnacle of that pyramid is make me better, safer, or more powerful. By the way, does the top of that pyramid have anything to do with your product or service? No. Make me a better home buyer. Make me a safer home buyer against the risk. Make me more powerful in my ability to make discerning decisions. When you do that, I'm going to elevate you to a different level. You're not just trying to shove me in a home or a community. You demonstrate. And that's the real key. Please write somewhere for me, demonstrate. You have to demonstrate a vested interest in that customer before they become a customer. You have to demonstrate a vested interest in that customer before they become a customer. You can't just say that. Oh, we love you. Really? You don't even know me. Don't bro me before you know me, right? So how are you making me better, safer, more powerful? Does this make sense? Does this resonate? All right, let's go to the next one. Regina is capturing cool notes. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the other data point that might be useful to you is, anybody know what CAC stands for? CAC, CAC. Customer acquisition cost. There's a very definitive number that costs you to acquire a customer. The top row, this is from HubSpot research, top row, 10 customers, 3 of them go away, $30 to replace those 3. You've spent $70 total to then market to them moving forward. So your acquisition cost is $10. Bottom row, if you spend $10 on a better customer service, better customer experience early on, and you have less of a churn, you spend less to replace them, you get to spend more on them moving forward, your acquisition cost actually goes down. It costs you less because at the bottom of that slide, happy customers talk to other friends, family, right? And the colleagues, and they build this ecosystem and they buy based on referrals. You know this. So your acquisition cost is actually lower if you invest in a greater, better customer experience. Let's go to the next one. So same idea. Again, this is pretty consistent, right? The employees had a series of touchstone moments in that journey map. So do customers. Go ahead and hit the next one. The key is do not confuse customer service with customer experience. Customer service is one facet of it. Look at all the different things that make up the overarching end-to-end customer experience. Do you provide advice? Nick, can I go anywhere on your website and get advice? He's saying yes. Can you unmute yourself and tell me where?
No. But yeah, someone does pop up and you could chat with somebody to get advice from inside sales. So yeah.
Is that consistent everywhere?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. How about support? Do I get support before I buy? Is that the same person?
Might
Ryan,
be.
Ryan, do I get support before I buy?
So is this the online experience or is this in person?
Does it matter?
No, but there's a little Wi-Fi signal above the support guy.
Well, that's just like phone support is what that's referring to. But my question is, can I get support before I buy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So Tatiana, your properties, I can just go in and ask all kinds of questions that I want?
Sorry, I'm not on mute anymore, Dave.
So can I go into one of your properties in Orlando and ask whatever questions I want?
Yeah.
Can I learn more about mortgage or what I qualify for on the property?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, good. So do you have my best, that's that next logo. Do you have my best interest? Do you have my heart in mind? Right? That's what that means. Do you have, right? So for example, you guys, some of you know, I ride a motorcycle. The biggest source of fatalities in motorcycles is the bike is more powerful than the rider's capability. And just like cars, there's the engine size right? Different engine sizes, basically. So one of the conversations I'm having with the Motorcycle Industry Council is enticing the dealers not to sell 1,000cc bike to a brand new rider, because that's how they will get themselves hurt, if not killed. You would not believe what an uphill battle this conversation has been. Why? There is a big old margin in 1,000cc bikes. And that dealership wants to push more bikes. I don't give a who walks in. If it's a 16-year-old with a license, I'm going to sell them that bike. And my whole supposition is you don't get it. You don't get that lifetime value of that customer versus the transactional one, right? So do you demonstrate? This is another place where you got to demonstrate my best interest at heart. Do you have me in mind when you design products, design services, create experiences, right? Obviously, the next one, quality. If your house falls apart, if the shingles fall off, if the crap doesn't work, if on and on and on, right? I don't, and you need to hear this. I don't care how it works. I don't want to know how it works. I just want to get it resolved without getting the runaround. I'm a huge believer of one call resolution. One call. How do I get that resolved? So that quality, and by the way, if you don't screw up, you're not human, right? That's not it. It's what you choose to do with it. So I think there was some conversations around, we might not be as accessible for warranty. That's just unacceptable. In 2021, and I don't care who owns it, we got to fix that part, right? Competence. Do I feel that you're competent? Do you answer my questions? Do you, right? If you think of that millennial first-time buyer, they're going to go to their parents and ask a bunch of questions. And parents are going to say, what kind of roof do you have? I don't know. What kind of insulation do you have? I don't know, right? So I want to talk to somebody who's competent to answer those questions. Help. Do you demonstrate help? Do you demonstrate authentic help? Do you help me along this journey? My satisfaction, do you listen, not just do surveys, but do you have your finger on the pulse of that experience, that journey along the way? Last but not least, certainly is service. So same exercise. I'm going to recreate your breakout rooms. This time the focus is on the customer and that customer experience. Same idea, A, B, C, or F across those 8 attributes. A, B, C, or F. Again, do your own division first, then compare that note with somebody else, and let's figure out where you're at. So how consistent is your division across all of those, A, B, C, or F, and then share notes with others. So let me go ahead and I'm going to recreate the rooms. I'm going to assign them automatically. I am going to exchange with Lexi, exchange with Steven. There we go. Regina and Carissa are with me. Open all the rooms. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Come back strong. We're going to go after visual storytelling. 10 minutes. Thanks for coming back. Again, show of hands. Out of 8, how many have 4 A's? 4 A's. Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. 5 A's. 5 A. 5 out of 8 is A's. Lexi, really? Wow. You're muted. Wow. 5 8s. All right. 6 8s. 6 A's out of 8s. 6 A's. No, okay. How about anybody got 4 B's? 4 B's. Okay. 5 B's. Okay. Anybody's got at least 2 C's? 2 C's. 3 C's. Okay. How about 2 F's? 2 F's. 1 F. Anybody got 1 F? 1 F. All right. Just want to make sure we're keeping it real. All right. So again, another good exercise to, if your project, and we're going to talk about that shortly, if your project is the customer experience, this would be a really good way to go back and think about how strong is that end-to-end customer experience. Regina, let's go to the next one. So it doesn't happen by accident, right? Somebody somewhere has to plan it. More importantly, we have to do more than just plan it. We have to execute. So I refuse to believe, well, that customer experience just happens. No, it doesn't. You either plan it, you either plan it or it just happens to you, right? So ideal if it's planned, ideal if it's consistently executed. Next one. So this was from MIT Sloan. And the highlight of this is that most people had an expected experience right in the middle of that bell curve, right? Most people expect it to be right in the middle. When the variance, when it deviates from the middle of the bell curve to the left, oh my God, what a terrible experience. Conversely, when it deviates to the right, it becomes unbelievable. And those are really outliers. So what you really want to do is try to skew the bell curve more to the right, right? We want to minimize the terrible experiences, keep that expectation in the middle, but move that. I want to move that bell curve to the right. Go to the next one. The way you do that, the way you shift that experience culture, the way you shift that experience expectations is really focus on delighting, understanding what delights people, what disappoints them. And typically they have and it's an emotional connection. You've heard me say this before. Customers will evaluate logically. They're going to decide. They're going to make decisions emotionally. Logically, they're going to evaluate the different plans. They're going to logically evaluate the different communities. Emotionally, they're going to pick that one because, ooh, I love the view. I think it would be, I can so see me sitting on that back porch with my Sunday morning coffee and paper and get away from the hustle and bustle of the work. Oh my God, can you imagine us putting rose bushes right there? Wouldn't that be lovely? It's an emotional connection that has nothing to do with the R rating of the insulation. So what you have to understand is what delights, what disappoints. It's typically an emotional issue. And then when a problem begins, empowering employees to act and get it resolved creates that uplift, creates that, oh my God, that is so cool. So for years, Tatiana and Regina are going to love this story. Alexia will appreciate it as well. For years, the Walt Disney World was one of my clients. So I worked for a tech company called Silicon Graphics. We were in Apopka. And I would commute from Apopka, north side of Orlando, all the way down to Disney World, about 60 miles each way every day. I got myself a badge from existing clients to go on the property. I got myself an office down there. And I lived, ate, breathed the Walt Disney World. That was my only client. Before I got there, we had done 700K in 2 years. And we had done 700K in like 2 departments. In 2 years, we did north of $40 million, 2 years, and made Disney one of SGI's global accounts. And we did business with 11 different business units and some 30 some odd departments. Now I got to give credit. It wasn't on me. I didn't do that. I had a lot of help. And I worked with Burbank and Euro Disney and Disney in Hong Kong. And we made Disney a huge global account for SGI. But what I found out was the Walt Disney World Company has measured the lifetime value of a family of 4. Any guesses of what a family of 4 will spend at the Walt Disney World Company? Any guesses? Just unmute yourself and just guess. Jump in. How much would a family of 4 spend with the Walt Disney World Company?
What do you mean, like to go visit the park for the day?
Yeah, parks. Yeah, parks and the whole food and lodging and around the parks.
You mean
10,000.
over the life of the family?
Family of 4, lifetime value of that family of 4. Somebody said
Lifetime.
lifetime value of family of 4.
I got some family members that go to Disneyland.
I was gonna say more like probably 100,000.
Yeah, basically $50,000 to $75,000. A family of 4 will spend $50,000 to $75K. By the way, the difference was if they go on Disney cruises. If they go on Disney cruises, they found out that a ridiculous number, like 78%, will go back to a subsequent Disney cruise, and that's that additional bump. But they'll spend 50 to 75 grand with the Walt Disney World Company, basically the theme parks. So they've empowered the frontline managers, the frontline managers, up to $2,500, no questions asked, just fix it. Somebody's pissed over a meal, fix it. Somebody has an issue with a ride, fix it. Because it is not worth endangering that 50 to 75 grand for a $50 meal. So at the bottom of that, employees who are given the license and the capability to act turn an emotional disappointment into an emotional delight. And that's exactly what shifts that customer experience to the right. And you create more delighted customers. Here's the crazy part. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to emotionally satisfy whatever issue they had. Does this make sense? Does this resonate? So if your project is, if you interact with customers, if you're part of your world is that customer experience, how can we understand the emotional, either disappointments or delights? More importantly, how can we empower those employees at that property, at that model home, at that mortgage approval phase, at that, you know your business better than I do, but at that moment of need, at that moment of customer need, how do we get better at anticipating it? How do we get better at empowering employees to act? Because if you wait, or you got to talk to my manager's got to talk to a director's got to talk to some vice president, and then we got to get NASA involved, and then there'll be a congressional vote, and you're going to lose the opportunity. That touchstone moment is gone. Any questions or comments on this? All right, let's move on to the next one. Miss Regina is going to move us to the next one. So this is, again, quickly, it's about car shopping, right? So a negative experience, car has an engine failure. My existing car. Positive experience, I research new cars. I find special financing offers. The financing offer is actually not what was promised. Then I go back, I get a call from who explains the alternatives. Then neutral, I'm waiting. What else does that line of waiting look like to you? Flatlined. Beep, we're waiting. Shock some excitement into it. Because next I receive it, I sign the financing and purchase contract. That's when the relationship starts. I receive a thank you letter, first ride in the new car. So my goal is minimize negative, don't let it flatline, increase the positive, and the speed, shorten the time, right? I don't know how long that time is, but that first ride in the new car has got to come much sooner. What do you mean it's going to take you 6 months to build that house? What? I don't care about lumber shortage. They really don't. They want to get in their house. They don't understand it. So how can we communicate that more effectively up front, right? And shorten that distance. Let's go to the next one. So just like the employee, there's a customer experience journey, right? Awareness, consideration, purchase, service, loyalty. Nick rattled something off that I know you already have. What I wanted to convey with this is the physical and digital are increasingly merging, right? So you can see that PR, unmanaged touch point. They're just going to see the ads, right? TV, radio, we control that. Then word of mouth, online web, viral email, digital whiteboard, search, landing page, blog, third party. Then they have the considerations. Then they buy. Then they go back to the website portal for some sort of warranty, mobile, chat, they get a service, call in. And when they have a great experience on the, promotion on the invoice, loyalty, blog, email, newsletter. So there's they go through that buying journey. And what's really critical is for you to understand, where do we shine? Where do we have work to do? Where do we shine? Where do we have work to do? Write this down for me. I saw a research paper from Cornell that says if you want anything to be remembered and repeated, they have to see it 7 times. 7 times. They have to see the brand, they have to experience the brand, and it's got to be multimodality. That's what that means. An email, a billboard, come into a model home, get a follow-up call, get an SMS, multimodality. 7 times if you want to be remembered and repeated. So really critical that we integrate our digital and our physical touch points. Let's go to the next one. So again, Ryan asked about these. Yeah, net promoter score, customer satisfaction, churn rate, retention rate, customer lifetime value, developing your own KPIs, customer effort score. That's an interesting one. CES. How much effort, how many hoops do we make them jump through to actually buy from us? Right? Increasingly companies are, and it's a metric for friction. How much friction is there in our buying process? Those are really important. Most people use net promoter score. It's just well understood. It's pretty reliable. Customer sat also is customer sat is more like a survey, and it's just increasingly decreasing just because people don't get the perception that you care or you do anything with it. So I have this checklist for you for retaining best customers, not all customers, but best customers. So you have to start with what I call your ideal relationship profile. Your ideal relationship profile. So not every customer is a great customer. Is this a kind of customer we want? Right? Obviously they can get financing. Obviously they're gonna, right, be good ambassadors of our brand. Right? So what are some of those attributes in an ideal relationship profile? Go to the next one. Identify the current experiences today. So I know you have one, but we don't know how do they feel. The same idea, what they feel, what they observe, what they immerse in, right? Including the most impactful, those touchstone moments. Next one. Measure those. Does it sound familiar? CX, customer experience, and EX, employee experience, pretty consistent. Next one. Prioritize customer intimacy. Increasingly, customers want you to know me. I want you to get to know me. Engagement, self-service, options, and care before, during, and after our interaction together. All right, next one. We use in our work something called an empathy map. And an empathy map is a fantastic, I teach a class in this. It's a fantastic tool. You can just Google. I'll put this up in the forum as well for you to download, but it's a fantastic tool. If you look, start with 1, top left corner. It's 7 questions about who are we empathizing with, what do they need, what do they see, what do they say, what do they do, what do they hear, and in the center, what are their pains and gains. It's a really good tool to really immerse yourself. So again, a tip for whoever's got the customer experience project, use an empathy map. Use an empathy map to understand firsthand what those customers are hearing, thinking, feeling, struggling with, right? Let's go to the next one. So, I mean, before I do this, any questions, comments, anything we've talked about on the customer experience side? All right. If not, I want to circle back with the whole storytelling, but I want to really show you a visual because it's going to be really critical to you. And then the last part we're going to talk about is agility. I'm going to bring that back around. And then Regina and Carissa are going to talk about your project. So Lynn Wilson is my creative director. Lynn and I teach a class. This is actually how I originally met Carissa. We teach a class at Emory University called Strategy Visualization, where we take a vision, we take a strategy, and we visualize it. So there's one coming up, August 10, 11, 12. It's a half day and it's virtual. I'll post the link. I'm going to talk about it in the forum. If you're available, if you've got some development funds, I think it'll be really good for you. August 10, 11, 12. It's a half day. I think we go 8 to 1. I think it'd be really good for you to immerse yourself in really understanding how to visualize stories. It's this stuff over my shoulder. This is the kind of work that we produce from that, right? Go ahead and go to the next one. So which one is more clear? Go one more. Option A, we're going to do one of those eye exams, right? You remember the ophthalmologist? Say that fast 3 times. Ophthalmologist. Which one is more clear? Option A, right? Death by PowerPoint. Or Regina, option B. Here we go. There you go. Which one's more clear? Right? By the way, Regina hits next one. Hit the next one. I've got neuroimaging data that proves our brains process visuals 60,000 times faster than we do text. Yet we're all hell bent on sending war and peace in an email. Stop it. It is not helping you. Draw a picture. Get people visually engaged. Next one. So what's really cool is when that kind of an idea cascades to the whole organization. So for these guys, I'm sure you've heard of ThyssenKrupp. These guys manufacture elevators and escalators. If you haven't, it's a big German conglomerate. So what happened was, go ahead and hit the next one. Their CEO created a welcome for onboarding. Hit the next one, where they have that image in there that talks about this is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. Hit the next one. When they did an organizational realignment, hit the next one. It was front and center. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. They open up every meeting, management meeting. This is where we're going. This is how we're going to get there. You visually reinforce that vision and direction. Go to the next one. So it's a process, and I'm gonna focus on the stuff that's most relevant to you. Go to the next one. What really is important, and what I want you to do is combination of systems thinking. Go to the next one. For your projects, this is design thinking. In your projects, in your stories, you want to think about, next one. Before we used to do it in a conference room. Now we do it all through a digital whiteboard. Keep going, Regina. Next one. I want to get to, and it's an iterative process. Keep going. I want to get to, while I'm clarifying, my creative director, Lynn, is visually capturing in sketches here. This is what I want to stick to. As you present your case, as you present your projects, these 5 attributes are going to be critical. Number 1, why are we doing this? If you don't build a compelling why, you're going to lose me. Give me that lighthouse up front. Why are we doing this? 2, you have to be clear on your audience. If you're presenting these to executives, it's a different audience. I'm going to tell different stories. I'm going to articulate that differently than I am a frontline employee. Drew, that intern doesn't speak that executive language, not going to understand it. I'm not trying to dumb it down. I probably will use a simple language and less industry jargon. So 2, who are we engaging? Who's that audience we're presenting to? 3, what's the outcome? What do you want that audience to think, feel, or do differently? So if you're going to present a case, an example on customer experience, on employee experience, at some point, there needs to be an ask. So what is it you want people to think, feel, or do differently? That's the outcome of why that story matters. 4, what story are you going to tell? We talked about that hero's journey. We talked about the character. We talked about what they're after. Build a compelling story. So I want to tell you about Susan, who joined us about a month ago. And I got to tell you, in my conversation over a cup of coffee with her, it didn't sound like she had the best onboarding. But I don't think it's too late, because I think we can elevate it if we do these things. We need your help. The reason I want to tell you the story about Susan, we need your help in these 3 areas. Now I have my ask. I know what my story is. I know what outcome I'm after, and I'm going to connect the dots. 5, how will you roll it out? The best case scenario in any innovation initiative is when that executive, Clint sees it, Javier sees it, your division president sees it and says, love it, go. That is not the time to go, having that rollout, having how we're going to implement this is going to be critical. So you better have how we're going to roll that out in your back pocket so it's ready to go. Why are we doing this? Who's the audience we're trying to engage? What's the outcome we're after? What story do we want to tell? How we're going to roll this out. These 5 attributes are going to be critical to your storytelling. Ideal if they're visual. Questions, comments. Are you completely bored? Are you thinking? Are you internalizing? Is this useful to you? Chris?
Yes, not bored. Internalizing, thinking through it, it's useful.
Elliot?
Sure, but I think you can move on to the next slide.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ryan?
Yeah, not bored.
Got it. Lexi?
Just taking notes.
I love it. How's that cookie, Lexi?
It's actually sun chips. Pretty darn delicious.
Cannot believe you're not sharing. Tatiana, nice background. Is this helpful? Is this useful, Garrett?
Yeah, useful.
All right, good. Regina, let's move on. I'm going to take Elliot's. So we start with rough sketches. Go to the next one. We add color. You basically add more texture to it. Keep going. And what happens is you come up with a rough concept. And let's keep going. I'm just showing the process. But by the way, this was a 44-page PowerPoint. And I'm trying to tell you, nobody's got patience. Stop measuring the value of what you create by its weight. Nobody's got time, patience to sit through death by PowerPoint. So we came up with 3 focal points of the story: quality solutions, great place to work, effective communication, but don't give me motherhood and apple pie. So we added some more content to it. And as you saw, the PowerPoint builds. So by the time you get to what we call the money shot, now you have that full story. But it doesn't end there, because like most people, that's fine. You got spreadsheets and all kinds of other dependencies and pilot projects and on and on and on. That's ugly. So it's a cultural shift. Imagine if that's exactly what we did. Each of those platters, right, became a little more deeper about jobs and roles, and we tied the employees into the customer experience, right? Go to the next one. They had this massive change management initiative called Elevate. Next one. So it also had 4 components. All of that visually came from the same thing. So visual storytelling becomes a cultural shift. And that is something you can practice. That is something absolutely you can do with your teams. I'm at my best when I'm on a whiteboard with an easel and I invite people in to the conversation. By the way, we used to say, whoever has the marker has the microphone. Whoever has the marker has the microphone. Lexi, what do you think that means?
If you're up there jotting it down, you're the one speaking.
If I have a whiteboard and somebody says, "Oh, can I borrow that marker?" Brilliant. Now you've invited them into the story. You want people to draw. You want people to ask. You want to bring people in. Now, I got to tell you, that's a little harder with Hollywood squares or the Brady Bunch squares, right? But it's still doable. So I typically ask people to share their screens, right? And having other people jump in. Whoever has the pointer, whoever has the share the screen has the microphone, right? So getting people involved in this visual storytelling goes a long way. Let's go to the next one. So Hilton want to do a better job recruiting millennials, right? They would go in and literally, I kid you not, would tell these 19-year-olds, we were the first brand that had color TVs. What? We were the first brand that had room service. I'm like, okay, time out. They're not watching your TVs. They're not eating your property. Why would they care? Instead, we created Hilton campus conversations and we made them about them. We made that journey about those kids. Go to the next one. They committed to recruiting 10,000 veterans. So we talked about what do they learn in military life? What's the transition? How do we create Hilton careers? Tell a story. This was a 42-page document. Next one. You saw this Intercontinental Hotels with new hotel opening. Go to the next one. This is KPMG talking to chief compliance and chief risk officers about where the global risk footprint is. Go to the next one. This is Tupperware right there in Orlando, talking about how they cultivate confidence by empowering women globally. You may not recognize this, but Tupperware is a $3 billion company with still 1 million women, predominantly women around the world, right? Selling Tupperware. Next one. They were launching something called the Studio, like an Apple store to bring people in to use their products. Again, visual stories, what resonates. Next one. This is a company called Oceaneering. They do subsea floor infrastructure. This is their project management center of excellence. Look at the propellers. So you can visually bring stories in and invite people into the conversation, into the discussion, right? You don't have to learn how to draw. There's a lot of other ways to do this kind of stuff. Keep going. So I just have a couple of examples. This is Cox Cable in Atlanta, where they bring technicians in and they teach them how to become a voice expert or a video expert. This is now on the front of every binder. And as you get off the elevators, it's that entire lobby image is covered in this. Next one. So let me pause here. Does this make sense? We've talked about employee experience. We've talked about customer experience. I talked about bringing it back in that visual storytelling. Let me pause. Questions, comments, a lot of data. I promise you, I'm going to put the slides in the forum. I would encourage you to download them, go back through them, look at your notes. There's money in those notes, number one. Number two, I've given you a lot of cheat sheets, a lot of tips and techniques on how to make these projects sing. And the goal is not just learn about agility and innovation, but really figure out how to apply it. But let me pause. Questions, comments. I know we've been drinking from the fire hose for a little while. Garrett, questions, comments. What's resonating with you?
I think the last.
Sorry, say again.
My computer fan's going to probably sound like a vacuum cleaner, Ryan told me earlier. But the last 10 or 15 minutes.
I'm not sure I heard any of it. We'll come back to Garrett. Let's go to Ryan. What's resonating with you?
That I don't have a Lynn Wilson. How do I create a visual map?
Yeah, so great question. So we're actually working on a tool, a simple tool that will allow you to do that. And it'll be ready as a pilot by summer. So don't worry about that. Literally, you could sketch it out. You could, the simplest drawings, the simplest things. We're also putting a course on Nour Forum on the number one pushback I get from most leaders. I can't draw. You're missing the point. Visual communication. You can start with stick figures. We actually use a Sharpie, a black Sharpie, and you saw some of the early sketches, and just an 8.5 by 11. But what you can do is just start sketching conceptually arrows and what do we want people to do and what's next stair steps. And the more of that you do, the more you're going to bring people in to the conversation versus documents or PowerPoints or any of that kind of stuff. But we'll talk, Ryan, we'll talk more about that.
So I think Regina, real quick, I think Regina told us she encourages us to steal, right? So we have a customer and employee vision map that we did. So can we just...
Love that. Yeah, look at that. I think Tatiana's got one too. Love it. Absolutely. Regina's got wisdom. Steal away. Yes.
I stole that.
There you go. Lexi, what's resonating with you?
I was going to say what Ryan said, like, where do we come up with the software to create these things?
Yeah, I mean, just basic, and we'll talk more about basic sketches, basic conceptual. Again, Lynn Wilson is in that Nour Forum. He often puts really simple things up, and we're building a course on visual storytelling, right? Tatiana, what's resonating?
Hold on. Am I on mute?
No,
No, I'm
hear
not.
you.
Mute.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm like trying to press two buttons.
Understood.
No, I think that, I think you've come full circle for me. The initial reaction I had with the the storytelling and the journey that we started discussing last time and then yesterday, and when we, presented this morning, and then throughout the day, just to, the power of the storytelling and the visual. I think to me, it's been, I'm putting all the pieces together.
Good. Delighted to hear that. Elliot, what's resonating with you?
Tatiana said it well. I kind of wondered where all of this was going, and it finally feels like it's coming together. So,
Good.
Which is great. Now I'm wondering what our project's going to be. So
Good. That's coming up in a few minutes. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for believing in the process. David, what's resonating with you?
Exactly the same thing. I mean, it was a good illustration of, we talked about the storytelling, how that, communicated information through a story better than just telling is more effective. And then, combine that storytelling with visuals is effective, more effective. And, like Elliot, I'm eager to see what the task will be.
Yeah, very cool. Nick, quickly. Nick, Steven, and Chris. Nick?
Yeah, nothing that hasn't already been said, but a lot of information kind of flowing at us. So definitely need to go into the system and actually download and print off some of it and go through it.
Great. Steven?
Just internalizing how to get the touch, the touch moments, the touchstone moments incorporated into this path and just draw it out. Good.
Got it. Chris, what's resonating with you?
I think the power of visualization, how fast our brain processes that versus text, and how it can help really sell the story. So I think it's great.
Yeah, another reason I wanted to show you guys those examples, I didn't have to tell you a whole lot. You saw it, you quickly see it, and you're like, oh, I get it. I get that store looks like, or I get what that global map looks like. So our brains, I'm telling you, just processes visuals a lot faster. All right. So the last thing I want to do before Regina takes us through the projects is also put a bow on the whole idea of agility. One of the things we found, one of the things that I've seen the last 14 months is that, believe it or not, beyond the lives and the livelihoods of this global pandemic, as awful it's been an unbelievable accelerant for real agility and innovation, specifically around some key areas. Number one, competition. If you have to compete more aggressively for those employees and customers, you're going to rethink that employee customer value. You're going to focus on, instead of let's go after, pre-pandemic, we saw this. People were all over the map in terms of their competitive differentiation. During the pandemic, they said, why don't we focus on fewer things, fewer capabilities? I've said it before, I'll say it again. If I show you a list of 10, 8 of anything, I'd rather see you focus on 2 or 3 that you do phenomenally well versus try to tackle all 8 or 10. So fewer capabilities, but exceptional capabilities. And that comes out in your competitive positioning. So we want to attract not every employee, this type of employee. We want to cater to not every customer, this type of a customer. That is a competitive differentiator. That we know who we are, we know who we're not. We're not going to go after the ultra high-end, multi-million-dollar whatever. We're in that 250 to 350K range, value pricing. That's what we're going to do exceptionally well. That's a competitive differentiation that you double down on. Regina, let's go to the next one. Tech-enabled. Increasingly, particularly the customer base that you're betting on, if I understand it correctly, you have to understand. It's the art of understanding. Understanding what is it that they need as employees, understanding what they need as customers. Newsflash, those needs change on a daily basis. So if you lead your engagement, if you lead your interactions with technology, it identifies where the friction is. It identifies, I told you, waiting might as well be flatlining. Why are they waiting? Why are they waiting on us? How can we use technology to update them on their application process, on their home build, on their employment process? Identifying potentials for tech-enabled. Tech-enabled. Stop with the paperwork. Stop with the traditional way of what we've been doing things. The analog is dead. Somebody, I think it was Chris who said it. If you haven't bought a car lately, I'm telling you, it's a very different experience. Most of us would cringe at that finance and right. So now it's become a lot more streamlined. I'm telling you, I think we were in there for 15 minutes. Sign once, click here, understand this, click here, done. I was like, oh my God, there's got to be more. No, there really isn't. Right? So look for, as you look at your projects, one of my challenges to you is, could that be tech enabled? Could we quickly either use an off-the-shelf app or quickly build? I had one of my best conversations was with CR, your Chief Innovations Officer. He's now predominantly focused on building material and those kinds of innovations. But I believe there's a real opportunity in your company for business model innovation. And business model innovation is typically tech enabled. Go to the next one. Diversity. Big part of agility is diverse cognitive diversity. It's really, how do we get the right mix of talent? And I'm going to go back to something Ryan said. This is absolutely easier said than done. But your employee base needs to increasingly look like your customer base. And that customer base is evolving. Internally, agility is about a deep bench. I'm telling you now, the war for talent is only going to increase. If your employees are not getting calls from recruiters, either you're kidding yourself or you don't know, because I'm telling you they are. There's increasingly kind of a war for talent. So how do we build a deeper bench? So if someone that's in a critical role leaves, I've always believed at least 2 deep. How do we at least create 2 deep in every position, in every role? Cognitive diversity, we often talk about ethnic and gender diversity, and those are critical. We don't talk enough about cognitive diversity. You need to attract, you need to retain. You got to find people who think differently than you do. Last but not least, Regina, hit the next one for me, please. Partnerships. Leveraging tech to exceed expectations. You remember that emotional delight versus emotional disappointment? How do we use technology to delight them? Delight them. Unlikely alliances. I got to tell you, I was really surprised when I read that Beazer Homes press release with Imagine Homes. Like, wait, they're both home builders. But it looks like Imagine Homes doing something really interesting with the whole certified sustainable, right? So I wasn't surprised. Beazer is riding their coattail. So that's an unlikely alliance. And then executing successful partnerships. By the way, have you noticed the keys don't quite fit correctly and the circle isn't perfectly round? If you wait for it to be perfect, you're going to miss the opportunity. This is about progress and not perfection. Agility is about move. Your feet are not set in concrete. When you see an opportunity, move. So our last breakout, and with apologies in advance, it's going to have to be short. I want you to think of these 4 opportunities and come up with one. Where is the most fertile place for you, your division, your role to practice agility? I don't want to just talk about it. I want to find out where's one place. So it's going to be a quick breakout out of those 4. Competition or market positioning. I'm sorry, go back.
Sorry.
Tech enabled, diversity, partnerships. One area, pick one area where you have the lowest hanging fruit to practice agility. One lowest hanging fruit. Here we go. I'm going to recreate the rooms again. We're giving everybody a chance to mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. All right, let's do this for come back. Come back. You got 7 minutes. 7 minutes. So thanks for coming back promptly. I hope that was useful, productive, good conversations. Give me a thumbs up, virtual or old school. Nice. All right. So Regina is going to take us through the Met projects, and then I'm going to come back full circle and wrap it up. Regina, over to you, ma'am.
Great. Thank you, David. All right, team. I know it's been a lot of information over the last 2 days, and David, thank you. I think he definitely dropped a couple of really good hints for all of you as you're thinking about executing on these projects. But I just wanted to start with kind of a reminder of where we started our program and our overall objective for all of you as you participated in MET was to really start to hone and refine the finer art of executive leadership, right? You guys are all senior leaders in the organization. You've all are really, really good at what you do. And now this is really going from good to great. And so a lot of what we've tried to emphasize throughout the program is education. It is thought. It is really kind of just mindset in how you approach the work, your people, leadership as a whole, as well as ensuring that we're providing you with developmental experiences that will immerse you into the strategic elements of this operational leadership. And so when we think about the concepts that David has really focused on over the last 2 days, and from now to next, and talking about agility, talking about the customer experience, talking about the employee experience, I think we need to recognize that next is now. You know, the executive team is currently trying to wrap their arms around how do we level up the employee experience and the customer experience? What do we need to do differently, better? What's coming? You know, Nour talked like it changes pretty regularly. And so rather than operate in a vacuum or kind of make some assumptions, what they've decided to really do is ensure as we focus on being more inclusionary, gathering greater diversity of perspective and thought in identifying real solutions that are going to level up the organization. So with that, the first project is going to be focused on the workplace of tomorrow. And so the question that you'll be tasked with answering is, what should the workplace of tomorrow be? So you're going to do research and make recommendations on what the employee experience work dynamics should look like. Because I think the reality is we know they've evolved so much since the pandemic. And we've seen new opportunities for collaboration, innovation, productivity. And we've seen people be effective in a virtual work environment. But we also want to make sure that we are fostering an environment that drives creativity and innovation, cultural growth and community, and the ability to maximize results. So when you're thinking about that, you're going to have a couple of objectives within this project. And the first is to level up the employee experience. And thank you, Nour. We want you guys to use the journey model to really propose and present what the employee experience should encompass, right? And so remember, you're thinking about the type of relationship that we want the employees to have with the company, with the leader, and with each other. Additionally, Another key objective is the enhancements to the work environment. We want solid recommendations for workplace design, flexible hybrid work schedules, all the things that kind of encompass that work environment that people have come to expect. We're looking for company and cultural alignment as well. Think about our mission, our vision, our values. This is, again, you're going to need to talk with both leaders from corporate, from the field, the frontline employees to get that full perspective. And then last but not least, the final key objective is to ensure we're supporting the overall well-being of our employees. And remember, well-being is not just physical well-being. We're talking mental well-being, social well-being, community well-being, financial well-being, career well-being, the whole, everything that that person brings to the table and leaves with at the end of the night. How can we address and support them with what they are seeking much more broadly? And don't worry about writing all of this down. The scopes have been loaded into the Nour forum with some more detail than I'm even providing right now. But again, the goal of this is to provide insights, best practices, and real recommendations that will shape the future of our workplace. The leaders are really looking to incorporate this moving forward. So your project sponsor for this work is going to be Javier. And the team focused on this particular project is Chris Edwards, Garrett Cohn, Nick, and Lexi. Okay. Questions, comments before I keep going on to the next one? We're just short on time. All right, so next project. Mastering supply chain disruptions. So the key question that you're going to be asking here are, what strategies can Meritage implement to master the cost and time delay impacts of the supply chain disruption? And in this particular project, you're going to be asked to consider both market conditions, to include housing components being impacted, geographies being impacted, the competitive landscape, the causes of price inflation and delivery disruptions, and really what's near-term and future outlook for pricing and supply. Additionally, you're going to be asked to look at and consider Meritage's solutions, right? What's going to be the impact to the income statement? What strategies are we going to have to implement to master the cost and time delay that of the supply chain disruption? We are living this right now. And so this is an interesting project because one could easily argue we're solving for the short term, but the reality is we really need to think about much bigger picture. How do we get in front of this for the Meritage of tomorrow and where we're going, and not just a short-term solution? And we got to think about internally, what do we need to do differently than other builders if we're really going to adapt and adjust to this external risk? So your key objectives with this project is to control cost, reduce cycle time, and guarantee material availability, and really evaluate this from both the employee experience as well as the customer experience, right? This is a project focused on efficiency, but it's also understanding how can we highlight solutions that are going to provide a better overall customer experience, because as Nour talked about, they're not the patient's level. I thought my home was a move-in ready home, thought I'd be able to close in 30 days, 45 days. I have another 6 months. How will we address those things? So again, you're going to be making real assessments around alternative building products, designs, value. You're going to look at processes, best practices. You really want to identify overhead and technology investments, as well as performance and productivity measures. And so your sponsor here is Clint, and the team working on this project is David, Tatiana, Ryan, Stephen, and Elliot. So from a timing perspective, my slide will, sorry, froze for a moment. So project officially kicked off. Clint and Javier are expecting to hear from you guys sooner rather than later to have your initial kickoff call. The scopes have been loaded, and we have proactively scheduled a touch point with all of you and Nour. So you'll have individual group touch points to check in and really share your research, your thought process, your first drafts, where you're going with this work. He's going to challenge you just as a consultant would, just as he's talked about today, not just from a presentation perspective, but a concept perspective. Again, the emphasis is bold, it's innovative, it's agile, but it's also coming up with the solutions and recommendations as to how we can implement. We want to, the executive team wants to hear from you. And so shortly after presenting to Nour, your executive sponsors want to have a think tank to understand your initial research and best practice findings. They don't even want to wait to the executive presentation because they want to start pulling in your ideas. You know, we're currently going through a return to work experience right now for our people, right? So let's not wait to start incorporating some of these best practices and findings that you guys are uncovering. The supply chain issue is now. What can we do to pivot, be agile? And then finally, you guys will present shortly after Labor Day to the executive team with the anticipation that based upon your recommendations, they will be looking to incorporate findings into 2022 objectives and the strategy refinement and rollout. So with that, I'll pause. Any questions before I kick it back over to Nour?
Questions, comments, insults. Good Lord, when am I going to get all this done and do my full-time job? It's okay. It's all right. You're amongst friends.
Good Lord, when are we going to be able to get this done and do our jobs?
Right. Nick, I'm glad you said it because I was thinking it. No, this is the ROI on the investment of time and effort in a program, right? Because if I talk at you for 2 days, we all know what's going to happen, right? You go back and shove the notes and stuff on some folder and it's gone versus how do we apply this? And this is actually, believe it or not, it's a micro learning opportunity. Ideas, templates, practical, let's get it implemented. Let's bring that learning to life, right? So, Regina, thank you. Any questions, comments? I got a couple of slides and I want to wrap up and let you go on your way. Questions, comments? Okay, so a much more detailed scope has been uploaded in Nour forum in the Med group. I am there every day. Do not wait till July 14, 15 till we connect. I'm there. Ask questions. Nour, how would you do this? How would you think about this? What's going on with you? You have unlimited. I don't bill by the hour. I don't bill by the minute. You have unlimited access to me through that Nour forum. Jump in, ask questions, right? Let's get, I would do a lot of this now so you're not up against the deadline to kind of get all that stuff done, right? So Regina, if you can bring up, I just got a couple of slides I want to show you. So don't wait, divide and conquer, come up with, give ideation. I would actually do it in this sequence. If I'm thinking of you, ideation. Have a whole ideation session. Then I would actually have an analytical session of those ideas, what's feasible, what's doable. Maybe think about low, medium, high, short-term, medium, long-term. Then I would have a relational session. What will it take to get buy-in? How will people feel about this? who do we need to get buy-in on? The last thing I would focus on is implementation. You jump into implementation too soon, you're going to miss out on the other three. And that's actually a pretty proven process. Ideation, analytical for feasibility, viability, relational. It's like a reverse Z, relational. And then the process or implementation is last. It's just a data point for you. So I want to continue the conversation. Nour Forum, bookmark that page. Come see me on a regular basis. We're going to have our review progress sessions on July 14, 15. By now, you know me. I'm hoping we're friends. So I'm asking for your A game. I'm on boards. I work with executive teams. Let's do a dry run of where you're at on the 14 and 15. But let's get this buttoned down by then so you feel pretty confident. And we're just going to do minor tweaks after this for the executive kind of think tank and presentations, right? That's all on this one. Go to the next one. I'm going to let you read this quote a second. Gary Hamel is one of the most forward-thinking management and leadership thinkers in the world. He's going to be my guest on one of the upcoming Curve Benders podcasts. And I love this quote because I cringe when I hear people say annual strategic planning. This is not a calendar-driven anything. It's a chance to look at the world with a new lens, with a new perspective. Make no mistake about it. This global pandemic in many ways has pushed restart in how we think about that employee, how we think about work, how we think about that customer, how do we think about our relationships. And this is your opportunity to rethink, reimagine that employee experience, that supply chain dynamics, that customer experience journey. Next one. That's my contact info. Thank you. Joking aside, thank you for the gift of your time. I know these make for long days. Appreciate you coming. Hopefully you got some value out of our time together. I'm available to you. Again, I'm in that forum. You need to reach out. There's also email. You can always reach out that way. But the forum allows others to learn from our conversations as well. My commitment to you is I'm going to post the recording from both yesterday and today as a link there, as well as the slides from yesterday and today. Go back, download it, watch it again. Really think about, but I can't emphasize, get with your project team sooner than later and get a game plan of accomplishing some major goals and milestones. If you do it on a weekly basis, this thing will be magical by the time July and September come around. Any final questions? Any final comments by anybody? Elliot, one highlight.
One highlight?
Highlight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about my project.
Yeah. One highlight from the last 2 days.
The triangle.
Ryan, go big. One highlight from the last 2 days.
Yeah, I got a book full of them here.
I know. Give me one.
I would say this, and I know you didn't say it this way, but the simplification of the visualization or
Love it.
graphics go.
Love it. Tatiana, give me one highlight from the last 2 days.
I think the visual storytelling to me was the biggest thing.
Very cool. David, one highlight from the last 2 days.
No growth ever comes from a place of comfort.
Love that about you. Garrett, one highlight from the last 2 days.
I agree. The biggest highlight was visual storytelling, telling the story.
Really powerful. Lexi.
I like the fundamental role of the corner office.
Yes.
There we go. Love it. Nick, one highlight from the last 2 days.
You got to brand something into someone's brain 7 times before they remember it.
Right. But enough about our kids, right? Yeah, exactly right. Regina, one highlight from the last couple of days.
Oh gosh. The storytelling, guys, the visualization.
Good. Carissa, one highlight from the last couple of days. I know she muted. I heard a kid. She might have her hands full. There she is.
No, I'm still here. I think we go back to the beginning. What was it? the S curve. I think we go back to before the last 2 days and take it all the way back into that S curve
Yeah.
and continuously innovating. Like you said, it's not on the calendar. It's not, okay, met group, met time to innovate, but continuously innovating individually and as a company.
That's it. All right, guys. Great to be with you. Thanks for making the time. Have a great one. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.